responsabilidad suya comunicarse con su abogado y hacerle saber que tendrá una fecha, una corte mañana.
No one else will do that for you.
Nadie hará eso por usted.
If you wish to move forward without your attorney present, we can do that.
Pero si usted quiere proceder hoy sin su abogado presente, podemos hacerlo.
If you do not have an attorney, I will ask if you can afford one, and if so, we will make a note of that and move on.
Si usted no tiene un abogado, yo le preguntaré si tiene los medios económicos para contratar uno. Y si es así, nosotros haremos una nota de eso y procederemos.
If not, and if you qualify, I can provisionally appoint the Office of the Public Defender to represent you, pending you filling out an application.
Si usted no tiene los medios económicos, pero califica, provisionalmente yo puedo nombrar a la oficina de abogados de oficio para que le represente a usted. Todo esto depende de que usted llene una solicitud más adelante.
You have the right to have your attorney present before and during any questioning.
Usted tiene derecho a que su abogado esté presente con usted antes y durante cualquier interrogatorio.
Third, if there are any challenges to probable cause, I will address those.
En tercer lugar, si hay alguna objeción o recusación en cuanto a motivo fundado, estos se abordarán inmediatamente.
Finally, I will review your bonds and/or conditions of release with you to determine if any changes are necessary.
Finalmente, voy a revisar sus fianzas y sus otras condiciones de liberación condicional con usted para determinar si es necesario hacer alguna modificación.
Please be aware, if this court places you on pretrial release today, regardless of whether it is straight pretrial release or condition of your bond, the conditions announced in court today go into effect immediately, meaning even while you remain in custody.
Debe saber que si el juez lo pone a usted en libertad condicional, independientemente si es directamente o como condición de su fianza, las condiciones que se anuncien hoy en esta audiencia entrarán en efecto inmediatamente, aunque usted se encuentre en la cárcel todavía.
For example, if you're told to have no contact with a certain person and you call that person from the jail before you are released, you are in violation of pretrial release.
Por ejemplo, si se le ordena a usted no tener contacto con una persona determinada y usted llama a esa persona desde la cárcel antes de salir en libertad, usted estaría violando su libertad condicional.
Throughout this entire process, you have a constitutional right to remain silent.
Durante todo este proceso, usted tiene el derecho constitucional de permanecer en silencio.
If you choose not to remain silent, anything you say can be used against you.
Si usted decide no permanecer en silencio, todo lo que diga podrá ser utilizado en su contra.
Everything that is being said where I'm located, as well as where all of you are located, is being recorded.
Todo lo que se diga donde yo me encuentro, así como también donde usted se encuentra, se está grabando.
There's an assistant state attorney present listening to everything that's being said, so do not say anything about the crime itself.
Hay un abogado de la fiscalía presente, escuchando todo lo que aquí se dice, así que no digan a usted nada sobre el delito en sí.
Please keep these rights in mind as we go through this process.
Por favor, tenga presente estos derechos durante el transcurso de este procedimiento.
Everyone can please stand up, raise your right hand, and answer out loud to the following question.
Por favor, pónganse de pie, levanten la mano derecha y contesten en voz alta la siguiente pregunta.
Do you swear or affirm testimony you provide today will be the truth, all truth, and nothing but the truth?
¿Juran o afirman que darán la verdad o dirán la verdad, toda la verdad y nada más que la verdad? Digan que sí.
Sí, sí, sí.
Yes, yes, yes.
Everybody who answered out loud yes may have a seat. If you did not answer out loud yes, please remain standing.
Todas aquellas personas que contestaron en voz alta que sí pueden sentarse. Aquellas que no contestaron en una voz alta, por favor, manténganse de pie.
See, everybody in South and Central is seated. All right.
Todos los que están tanto en la cárcel del sur como en la cárcel central están sentados. Muy bien.
We're going to start with the interpreter cases, then we have a case we need to take out of order, and then we will do the private attorney cases and then the remainder of the cases.
Vamos a comenzar entonces con los casos de español, después tomaremos un caso que tiene que ser tomado antes y finalmente los cargos o los casos que tengan abogado privado y por último todo el resto de los casos.
All right. The first case is Maynor Escobar Sandoval.
Maynor Escobar Sandoval.
Sí,
Yes.
Sir, you're charged with driving without a valid driver's license as an
Señor.
unauthorized alien.
Señor, a usted se le acusa de manejar sin tener una licencia válida de conducir como un extranjero sin autorización.
Would you like for me to appoint the public defender to represent you?
¿Quisiera usted que yo le nombre un abogado de oficio para que le represente a usted?
no,
No.
You're going to represent yourself or hire your own attorney?
¿Va a representarse a sí mismo o va a contratar a su propio abogado?
a mí mismo.
Represent myself.
All right. Do you have any legal training?
¿Tiene usted adiestramiento legal?
No,
No.
Have you had any contacts with the court before, the court process?
¿Ha tenido usted alguna experiencia con el tribunal antes de esto, con el proceso que se lleva en un tribunal?
Without telling me the details if you have.
sí,
Yes. Sin decirme los detalles, si usted tiene. Yes.
You understand that the state attorney's office is represented by an attorney, and they have had legal training. They know how to get evidence introduced. They understand all of the criminal rules of procedure.
¿Entiende usted que la oficina de la Fiscalía del Estado está representada por un abogado y que ellos han recibido adiestramiento legal? Ellos saben cómo presentar pruebas, ellos entienden las reglas penales de procedimiento. ¿Usted entiende todo eso?
sí. ¿Puedo preguntar algo?
Yes, may I ask something?
Yes, sir.
Sí, señor.
¿Qué beneficios tengo si pongo un abogado público o un abogado
Okay.
privado?
Okay. What are the benefits for me if I get a private lawyer or I get a public defender?
I cannot go into that level of detail with you because that would be me giving you legal advice. However, if you are represented generally by an attorney, either one, it puts you on equal footing with the state attorney's office. If
Yo
you
no
choose
puedo-
to, go ahead.
I'm sorry, Your Honor. Yo no puedo entrar en tantos detalles porque estaría dándole a usted asesoría legal. Sin embargo, si usted está representado por un abogado, no importa cuál, uno privado o un abogado público, usted estaría al mismo nivel con la fiscalía si usted decide o elige proceder con su caso, ¿entiende?
If you choose to represent yourself, since you've had no legal training and you're not an attorney, that puts you at a disadvantage compared to the state, since they have an attorney.
Si usted elige representarse a sí mismo, como usted no ha tenido ningún adiestramiento legal y usted no es un abogado, eso lo coloca a usted a un nivel un poco ventajoso en comparación con la fiscalía, porque ellos sí tienen un abogado.
Do you still wish to represent yourself?
Le pregunto, ¿todavía desea usted representarse a sí mismo?
Sí,
Yes.
Okay.
Okay.
In this case, I have reviewed the arrest report. I do find probable cause for the charge.
En este caso, yo he revisado el informe del arresto y encuentro que hay motivo fundado para el cargo.
ok.
¿Ok?
All right, so in this case, I'm going to require pretrial release with bail as a condition of pretrial release.
En este momento voy a exigir liberación previa a juicio con una fianza y condiciones de libertad condicional.
Bail set at $2,000.
La fianza se fija en $2,000.
Once you're released, you need to report immediately to pretrial release services office in Bartow in person.
Una vez que usted sea puesto en libertad de la cárcel, tiene que presentarse inmediatamente en la oficina de los servicios de libertad condicional. La oficina está en Bartow y tiene que hacerlo en persona.
That's at 1745 South Highway 17 in Bartow.
La dirección es 1745 en Highway del Sur, South Highway 17 en Bartow.
Thereafter, you need to report every week by phone twice a week on Tuesdays and Thursdays.
Después de esa primera presentación de usted en la oficina, tiene que reportarse todas las semanas por teléfono, 2 veces a la semana, los martes y los jueves.
Okay.
Okay.
Additionally, you have an ICE hold in this case.
Adicionalmente, usted tiene una orden de retención de ICE.
Thank you, sir. Please step to your left.
Muchas gracias, señor. Por favor, pase a su izquierda.
The next case is Geronimo Macedonio Marcos.
Jerónimo Macedonio Marcos.
So you're charged in this case with, there's a capias for you for failure to appear at arraignment on a no valid driver's license charge.
Señor, aquí hay una orden de arresto contra usted por una incomparecencia a una audiencia de lectura de cargos que usted tenía por un cargo de no tener licencia válida de conducir.
Sí,
Yes.
You like for me to appoint the public defender to represent you?
¿Usted quiere que yo le asigne un abogado de oficio que le represente a usted, señor?
No, está bien solo.
No, it's okay by myself.
All right. So you're gonna represent yourself, is that correct?
Entonces usted va a representarse a sí mismo. ¿Es eso correcto?
Sí, está bien.
Yes, it's fine.
You have any legal training?
Usted tiene adiestramiento legal.
No entendí.
Did not understand.
Do you have any legal training?
¿Tiene usted educación como abogado, adiestramiento legal?
Any training in
No.
the law?
No,
¿Tiene adiestramiento en la ley?
no tengo.
No, I don't.
You understand the state attorney's office is represented by an attorney. And since you are not represented by an attorney, you understand that'll put you at a disadvantage.
Usted comprende que la oficina de la Fiscalía del Estado está representada por un abogado y ya que usted no está representado por un abogado, usted comprende entonces que eso lo pone a usted en desventaja en comparación con ellos.
Sí,
Yes.
All right, and you still want to represent yourself, is that correct?
Y todavía sí usted quiere representarse a sí mismo, ¿correcto?
sí, está bien.
Yes, it's fine.
All right, in this case, I'm going to require pretrial release. Actually, this is a capias. The capias that the judge issued in this case is for $500. So they set your bond at $500.
Muy bien, aquí la orden de arresto que el juez dictó en este caso tiene una fianza de $500. Voy a fijar esa fianza, $500.
And you have an arraignment set for April the 24th at 8:30 a.m.
Y usted tiene ya una fecha en la corte para una lectura de cargos fijada para el 24 de abril a las 8:30 de la mañana.
The M6 division.
En la división M6.
Additionally, you have an ICE hold.
Adicionalmente, usted tiene una orden de retención de ICE.
Thank you,
Sí.
sir.
Gracias, señor.
Step to your left.
Pase a su izquierda.
Next case is Juan Esteban Rodriguez Caravalli.
Juan Esteban Rodríguez Caraballi.
So you're charged in this case with burglary of an occupied structure and grand theft.
Señor, en este caso se le acusa de un cargo de robo de una estructura o allanamiento de una estructura ocupada y de hurto de mayor cuantía.
Would you like for me to appoint the public defender to represent you?
Señor, ¿usted quiere que yo le nombre un abogado de oficio que la represente a usted?
Sí, por favor.
Yes, please.
I provisionally appoint the public defender to represent you in this case.
Provisionalmente le asigno un abogado de oficio para que le represente a usted en este caso.
I have reviewed the arrest report. I do find probable cause for the charges.
He revisado el informe del arresto y encuentro que hay motivo fundado para los cargos.
In this case, I'm going to require pretrial release with bail as condition of pretrial release.
En este caso voy a exigir una fianza además de condiciones de libertad condicional.
Your bail is set at $10,000 on the burglary of an occupied structure charge.
Y su fianza se fija en $10,000 en el cargo de allanamiento de una estructura ocupada
And $5,000 on the grand theft charge.
y una fianza de $5,000 en el cargo de hurto mayor o de mayor cuantía.
Once you're released, you need to report immediately in person to pretrial services located at 200 Government Center Boulevard in Lake Alfred.
Una vez que usted sea puesta en libertad, tiene que presentarse inmediatamente en persona en la oficina de los servicios de libertad previa juicio que está ubicada en el número 200 Government Center Boulevard en Lake Alfred.
Thereafter, you need to report by phone every week, 3 times a week on Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays.
Después de ese primer reporte, usted tiene que reportarse por teléfono todas las semanas, 3 veces por semana, los lunes, miércoles y viernes.
You may not use, possess, or carry any firearms, guns, weapons, ammunition, or knives.
Usted no puede estar en posesión ni utilizar ni portar ningún tipo de armas de fuego, pistolas, armas en general, municiones o cuchillos.
And you're prohibited from having any contact with the victim.
Se le prohíbe tener ningún tipo de contacto y comunicación con la víctima.
You cannot contact the victim directly or indirectly.
Usted no puede ponerse en contacto con la víctima ni directa ni indirectamente.
You cannot contact the victim in any way, shape, or form.
No puede ponerse en contacto con la víctima de ninguna manera, forma o medio.
You have to stay at least 500 feet away from the victim's residence, vehicle, place of employment, and school at all times.
Tiene que permanecer por lo menos 500 pies alejado de la víctima, la residencia de la víctima, el vehículo, el lugar de empleo o escuela en todo momento.
Thank you, sir. Please step to your left.
Muchas gracias, señor. Por favor, pase a la izquierda.
Next case. The next case is Leonardo Royet.
Leonardo Roger.
Sí.
Yes.
So you're charged with-
Your Honor, you're cutting out.
Yeah.
Let me try it again. So you're charged with violation of probation in case number 2025 MM2703.
Señor, a usted se le acusa de un incumplimiento de su probatoria en el caso número 2025 MM2703.
Would you like for
Yeah.
me to? Would you like for me to appoint the public defender to represent you?
¿Usted quiere que yo le asigne un abogado de oficio para que le represente a usted?
¿Puedo presentar a sí mismo?
Can I represent myself?
You can. Do you have any legal training?
Usted lo puede hacer, pero usted tiene adiestramiento legal.
¿Puedo hacer una pregunta sobre sobre el alejamiento legal?
Can I ask a question about the legal training?
Well, I'm just asking if you've had any training in the law, such as law school.
Yo solamente le estoy preguntando a usted si usted
Sí,
fue
sí.
a la
Ok.
escuela de leyes, usted tiene adiestramiento en la ley. Eso es lo que estoy preguntándole.
Okay, yeah, sorry. Yeah,
Is
Sí.
the answer yes, you've been to law school?
Usted, la respuesta suya es que sí, que usted ha ido a la
Sí,
escuela
sí.
de leyes. Yes, yes.
All right. Did you complete law school?
¿Usted completó todos los años de educación en la escuela de leyes?
no.
No.
All right. You understand the state attorney's office is represented by an attorney who understands all the rules of, criminal rules of procedure, how to get evidence introduced. They understand all of the rules in the case law. And as such, they would have an advantage over you since you are not an attorney.
Usted comprende que la oficina de la Fiscalía del Estado está representada por un abogado que entiende y comprende todas las reglas de los procedimientos penales, de cómo presentar pruebas, entienden todas las reglas del caso legal, de manera que ellos tendrían una ventaja sobre usted, ya que usted no ha sido adiestrado en la ley. Usted no es un abogado.
Ya, yo comprendo.
Yes, I understand.
And you still want to represent yourself, is that correct?
Y aún así, usted se quiere representar a sí mismo, ¿correcto?
Sí,
Yes.
All right, I have reviewed the violation of probation arrest warrant as well as the affidavit of violation of probation in this case, and I do find probable cause for the charge.
He revisado la orden de arresto de usted por la violación de la probatoria, así también como la declaración jurada de la violación de probatoria en este caso, y encuentro motivo fundado para el cargo.
Because it's an alleged violation of probation, your bond status is no bond.
Y ya que esto es se alega una violación de su probatoria, el estatus de fianza es que usted no tiene fianza.
You'll have a hearing on this case before the assigned judge on April the 21st at 8:15 a.m.
Usted tendrá una audiencia de este caso antes del juez que te ha asignado el caso el 21 de abril a las 8:15 de la mañana.
Thank you, sir. Please step to your left.
Gracias, señor. Por favor, pase a su izquierda.
The next case is Kevin Vargas Matos.
Kevin Vargas Matos.
Yes. I guess we've got the defender's office. I would ask for one time with law enforcement to get his stuff out of the house because they do live at the same address.
Okay.
Esta es la señora Sandra Smith de la Defensoría Pública solicitando que se le dé una sola oportunidad acompañado de un policía para que vaya a la residencia para poder entonces recoger sus efectos personales, ya que las dos partes viven en la misma dirección.
And should the court find probable cause, the state will ask to be heard regarding CF 25-7001.
Y también, si el juez encuentra motivo fundado, se pide hablar, pide la fiscalía en el caso CF 25-7001.
So you're charged in this case with domestic violence battery by strangulation.
Señora, a usted se le acusa en este caso de un cargo de agresión física, violencia intrafamiliar por estrangulación.
Would you like for me to appoint the public defender to represent you in this case?
¿Usted quiere que yo le asigne un abogado de oficio que le represente a usted en este caso?
Sí,
Yes.
I provisionally appoint the public defender to represent you in this case.
Provisionalmente le nombro un abogado de oficio para que le represente a usted en este caso.
I have reviewed the arrest report. I do find probable cause for the charge.
Yo he revisado el informe del arresto y encuentro motivo fundado para el cargo.
In this case, I'm going to require pretrial release with bail's condition of pretrial release. Mr. Hernandez, are you there? Ms. Hernandez, are you there? Can Central hear me? And
Yes, ma'am,
South?
we can.
Ms. Hernandez, are you there? Call IT. Don't call IT. We're having.
why don't they take?
Ms. Hernandez, are you there?
I'm sleeping on that list.
You're,
I'm barely hearing you, Ms. Hernandez. You're going in and out.
you hear me?
Y'all are going in and out, or I am, one of the two.
No, it's her and.
Well, they said they couldn't hear me, well, a few minutes ago. Someone can.
So here at Central, we can hear y'all.
Ms.
We can-
Hernandez, Ms. Hernandez, are you in the building?
I can hear you with the juvenile.
We can hear you at South County also, Your Honor.
Thank you. Unfortunately, I can't connect with our interpreter who was in the middle of interpreting for this case. If Ms. Hernandez can hear me, if you are in the building, if you could come to 8 Echo, I'd sure appreciate it. That would maybe help out. All right, we're gonna pass this case. And we'll get on with the juvenile. His name. All right, we're gonna go to Reginald Span.
Yes, ma'am.
All right, Mr. Span, you're charged in this case with several counts. This is a direct information that was filed for burglary of a conveyance while armed with a firearm and while wearing a mask. 6 charges of that, as well as burglary of, so hold on one second. Grand theft of a motor vehicle while wearing a mask. Grand theft of a motor vehicle while wearing a mask. Burglary of a conveyance, 2 counts of that. As well as grand theft, petty theft, and tampering with physical evidence. Would you like for me to appoint the public defender to represent you?
Yes, ma'am.
I provisionally appoint the public defender to represent you in this case. Is there anything anyone wants to tell me on this case?
Yes, Your Honor. With regard to count 1, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 8, each of those are punishable by life, first-degree felonies. State is requesting the court consider holding the accused no bond on those counts, as he is not entitled to a bond on those counts.
Are those each of the burglary of a conveyance while armed with a firearm while wearing a mask charges, those 6?
Yes, Your Honor.
Okay.
If the court is not so inclined, the state will be requesting that he be held for 24 hours for the state to file a motion for pretrial detention. They would fall under, well, they would not fall under the mandatory filing, but the state would intend to file a motion regardless.
All right, sir. In this case, I have reviewed the state attorney's office information that they filed, the capias and the arrest warrant. I do find probable cause for all the charges. Is there anything the defense wants to tell me?
I would just ask for the bonds on his other charges.
All right, sir. As to all of the charges except for the 6 counts of burglary of a conveyance while armed with a firearm while wearing a mask. All the other charges except those, I'm going to require a pretrial release with bail as a condition of pretrial release. Your bail is set. I'm also going to require GPS and electronic monitoring as conditions of pretrial release. And bail is condition of pretrial release.
Yes, ma'am.
And I'm going to require a curfew from 6 p.m. until 6 a.m. on those counts.
Yes, ma'am.
So as to those other counts on the grand theft of a firearm while wearing a mask, your bail is set at $10,000. On the count of grand theft of a motor vehicle while wearing a mask, your bond is set at $10,000. The other charge of grand theft of a motor vehicle while wearing a mask, your bond is set at $10,000. On the 2 burglary charges, just the regular burglary charges, your bond is set at $5,000 on each. On the other grand theft charge, $5,000. On the petty theft charge, $250. And on tampering with physical evidence, your bond is set at You may not be released until the GPS electronic monitor is affixed to your person. Once you are released, you need to report immediately to pretrial release services office at 200 Government Center Boulevard in Lake Alfred in person. Thereafter, you need to report 7 days a week by phone, every day, every week. Additionally, you may not use, possess, or carry any firearms, guns, weapons, ammunition, or knives, and you're prohibited from having any contact with the victims whatsoever. You cannot contact the victims directly or indirectly. You cannot contact the victims in any way, shape, or form. You must stay at least 500 feet away from the victims' residences, vehicles, places of employment, and schools at all times. As to the 6 other charges, the burglaries of a conveyance while armed with a firearm while wearing a mask, your bond status is no bond on those charges. The hearing will be set and held, do we have the date? Or will that be scheduled?
It would have to be scheduled and be pursuant to a defense motion for either bond or an Arthur hearing, Judge.
All right, so that will get scheduled. All right, is there anything else we need to address on this case?
Not from the state.
No.
If you want to have him brought back tomorrow to have the motion for pretrial detention file, or are we just leaving it at no bond for now?
I just leave it for no bond for now.
Thank you.
All right, thank you. All right, let's go back. Ms. Hernandez is here in the courtroom with me. We're going to go back to our last interpretation case, and then we're going to go to the private. All right, hold on 1 second. You jump back. So let's go back to Kevin Vargas Adams.
Regresamos al caso de Kevin Vargas Matos.
And when we left, Mr. You told me that you wanted to represent yourself.
Your Honor, are you cutting out again?
They have requested the public defender.
You did.
Okay, all right. Can y'all hear me now?
Yes, ma'am.
¿Me escucha, señor? ¿Oye a la jueza?
Sí,
Yes.
All right. So you would like for me to appoint the public defender, is that correct?
Señor, usted quiere que yo le asigne un abogado de oficio, ¿correcto?
sí,
Yes.
I provisionally appoint the public defender to represent you in this case.
Entonces, provisionalmente le voy a asignar un abogado de oficio para que le represente a usted en este caso.
I have
Gracias.
reviewed this report. I do find probable cause for the charge.
He revisado el informe del arresto y encuentro que hay motivo fundado para el cargo.
In this case, I'm going to require pretrial release to fail as condition of pretrial release.
En este caso, voy a exigir condiciones especiales de libertad condicional más una fianza.
Your bail is set at $7,000.
Su fianza se fija en $7,000.
Once you're released, you need to report immediately to pretrial release services office at 200 Government Center Boulevard in Lake Alfred, immediately in person.
En el momento en que usted sea puesto en libertad, tiene que presentarse inmediatamente en persona en la oficina de servicio de libertad condicional que está ubicada en el número 200 Government Center en Lake Alfred y tiene que presentarse inmediatamente allí.
Thereafter, you need to report by phone every week, 3 times a week, on Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays.
Y después de esa primera visita tendrá que seguir reportándose por teléfono 3 veces por semana, que va a ser los lunes, los miércoles y los viernes.
You may not use, possess, or carry any firearms, guns, weapons, ammunition, or knives.
Usted no puede utilizar, poseer ni portar ningún tipo de armas, armas de fuego, ningún tipo de municiones o cuchillos.
You're prohibited from having any contact with the victim.
Se le prohíbe tener cualquier tipo de contacto y comunicación con la víctima.
You cannot contact the victim directly or indirectly.
Usted no puede ponerse en contacto y comunicación con la víctima, no lo puede hacer ni directamente ni indirectamente.
You cannot contact the victim in any way, shape, or form.
No puede ponerse en contacto y comunicación con la víctima de ninguna manera, ni a través de ningún medio, ni por ninguna otra persona que lo haga por usted.
You must stay at least 500 feet away from the victim's residence, vehicle, place of employment, and school at all times.
Y tiene que permanecer por lo menos alejado de la víctima, unos 500 pies de la víctima, del hogar de la víctima, su automóvil, su lugar de empleo y escuela en todo momento.
It asks that I do the one-time return, so I'm going to allow you to return to the residence one time and one time only.
Y la señora Smith, la abogada de oficio, solicitó que se le permitiera a usted que pudiera regresar una sola vez a la residencia, acompañado de un oficial de la ley.
However, that return must be within 48 hours of your release for custody, and you must be accompanied by a law enforcement officer.
Sin embargo, ese retorno a esa residencia debe ser dentro de las 48 horas después de que usted se ha puesto en libertad dentro de ese periodo, y usted tiene que ir acompañado por un oficial de la ley.
The purpose for that one-time return is for you to quickly gather essential items.
Y el propósito de esa visita que va a hacer usted una sola vez es para que usted pueda recoger efectos personales esenciales.
Things such as medication, clothing, work tools, important paperwork, things of that nature.
Son cosas como, por ejemplo, papeles, documentos, medicinas, herramientas de trabajo, este tipo de cosas.
I believe the state said they wanted they had something they wanted to tell me regarding 2025 CF 7001.
Y creo que la Fiscalía quiere decir algo en lo que respecta al número del caso 25 25M.
2025 CF 7001.
El número que termina en 7001, 25CF.
Your Honor, it appears that the defendant is out on bond in that case.
El acusado se encuentra bajo fianza en ese caso.
The reviewing stack and showcase that appears to be the case.
Aquí estoy revisando tanto Showcase como Stack y eso parece ser el caso.
The court having found probable cause in the case before it this afternoon.
Y como la jueza determinó que existe motivo fundado esta tarde,
The state requests that the court revoke the bond in CF 257001 pursuant to Parker.
y entonces la Fiscalía está solicitando que se revoque la fianza que se tiene en el caso 25CF7001, de acuerdo con la ley de Parker.
And pretrial services also advised that case, it is an open bond case.
Y también de libertad condicional asesoran o informan que ese también es un caso que está todavía abierto.
So Mr. Vargas Matos, the state is asking that I revoke your bond in your previous case because you have this new case.
Entonces la Fiscalía, señor Vargas, está solicitando que yo revoque la fianza que usted tenía en el caso anterior, porque tiene este nuevo caso,
And that you be held no bond on that previous case.
y que se le retenga en la cárcel sin fianza por el caso anterior.
That is what I'm going to do.
Y eso es lo que yo voy a hacer.
So your bond is revoked in case number 2025 CF 7001, and you're to be held no bond pursuant to Parker v. State in that case.
Entonces, la fianza se revoca en el caso que usted tenía 2025 CF 7001 y se le retendrá sin fianza en la cárcel de acuerdo con la ley de Parker versus la Fiscalía.
And I would ask for public defender to be appointed on that case. I don't believe he has an attorney on it.
Y estamos solicitando, dice la abogada de oficio, que se le nombre un abogado en ese caso. No creo que tiene uno.
I provisionally appoint the public defender on case number 2025 CF 7001.
Provisionalmente nombro entonces a la oficina de abogados de oficio para que le represente a usted en el caso 2025 CF 7001.
You'll be brought before the judge who's assigned to the case to determine whether or not your bond status should stay no bond.
Y usted será traído para que comparezca ante el juez que va a manejar su caso para determinar si va a tener o no fianza en ese nuevo caso.
Thank you, sir. Please step to your left.
Gracias, señor. Pase a su izquierda.
I believe that's all of the cases requiring the services of the interpreter, but would you please make an announcement?
Muy bien, no lo sé. Buenas tardes. ¿Va a necesitar alguien más servicios de español? Por favor, levante la mano.
We have one more here at Central.
Es uno más.
Last name is Trinidad, Trinidad.
El apellido es Trinidad.
Ma'am, you're charged with domestic violence battery.
Señora, se le acusa a usted de un cargo de agresión intrafamiliar, agresión física.
Sí.
Señora, ¿usted quiere que yo le asigne un abogado de oficio que la represente?
Sí.
Yes.
Provisionally appoint the public defender to represent you in this case.
Provisionalmente voy a nombrarle un abogado de oficio para que la represente a usted en este caso.
Okay.
The assistant public defender, Ms. Smith, is standing at the lectern. Ms. Smith, what would you like to tell me?
Y veo aquí que está la señora Sandra Smith de la Defensoría Pública. ¿Qué quiere decirme, señora Smith?
She has no prior record and she has been recommended for straight pretrial release by pretrial release services.
La señora no tiene antecedentes y se le ha recomendado por parte de la Oficina de Libertad Condicional que se le dé libertad condicional directamente.
And she does have the same address as the alleged victim, so I would ask for one time when law enforcement to get her stuff out of the house.
Y ella comparte la misma dirección con la víctima, por lo tanto voy a solicitarle a la jueza que le dé la oportunidad de regresar una sola vez a esa casa acompañada de un oficial de la ley para recoger sus efectos personales.
That is-
Eso es todo.
Did see that,
Y ya vi eso.
but I also read the affidavit. In this case, after having reviewed the affidavit, I do find probable cause for the charge.
Después de haber revisado la declaración jurada o affidavit, encuentro que hay motivo fundado para el cargo.
I'm going to require pretrial release with bail as condition of pretrial release.
Voy a exigir entonces condiciones de libertad condicional más fianza.
Your bail is set in this case at $2,000.
Su fianza se fija en este caso en $2,000.
Once you're released, you need to report immediately to Pretrial Release Services Office in person at 200 Government Center Boulevard in Lake Alfred.
Una vez que usted sea puesta en libertad, tendrá que presentarse en persona en la oficina de libertad condicional que está ubicada en el número 200 Government Center Boulevard en Lake Alfred.
Thereafter, you need to report by phone every week, 3 times a week.
Y después de eso tendrá que reportarse por teléfono 3 veces por semana.
You may not use, possess, or carry any firearms, guns, weapons, ammunition, or knives.
Usted no puede utilizar, ni poseer, ni portar ningún tipo de armas, armas de fuego, municiones o cuchillos.
And you're prohibited from having any contact with the victim at this time.
Y se le prohíbe tener cualquier tipo de contacto y comunicación con la víctima.
You cannot contact the victim directly or indirectly.
Usted no puede comunicarse con la víctima ni hacerlo directamente ni indirectamente.
You cannot contact the victim in any way, shape, or form.
No puede comunicarse con la víctima de ninguna manera, ni a través de ningún medio, ni a través de otra parte.
I am going to allow you to return to the residence one time and one time only, but it must be within 48 hours of your release.
Le voy a permitir regresar a usted una sola vez y una sola vez únicamente a la residencia que tienen en común, y eso lo podrá hacer dentro del periodo de 48 horas después de que usted sea puesta en libertad.
And you must be accompanied by a law enforcement officer on that return.
Y en esa visita usted tiene que ir acompañada por un oficial de la ley.
The purpose for that one-time return is for you to retrieve essential items.
Y el propósito de esa visita que usted hará una sola vez es que usted pueda recoger efectos personales esenciales.
Things such as clothing, medication, important paperwork, work tools, things of that nature.
Cosas como, por ejemplo, ropa, medicinas, documentos, herramientas de trabajo, cosas de esa naturaleza.
Thank you, ma'am.
Gracias, señora.
Who requires the services of the interpreter. I'm not seeing anybody else. Thank you, Ms. Reeves.
You're welcome.
Thanks for your flexibility. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
All right. Do we have any private attorneys?
Good afternoon, Your Honor.
Good afternoon, sir.
Lawrence, you're appearing for Christopher Townsend.
I see Mr. Townsend approaching. Mr. Townsend, your attorney is present in the courtroom with me today. You're charged with burglary of an occupied dwelling and exposure of sexual organs.
May it please the court, Mr. Townsend, I may not know that I'm here. I was hired by his parents to represent him here, and I may be representing him further, but after meeting him, he does not need the services of counsel. I don't have any comments with regard to probable cause, with regard to bond and pretrial release conditions. I could speak to the court.
Yes, sir.
Yes, the situation here is that I know if you've read the probable cause report, the hospital did clear him and release him from the Baker Act over the weekend, finding he was not dangerous to himself and others. So that's been stabilized. The situation where they're between neighbors. They've known each other for quite a while. I don't know exactly what the report is, pretrial release, what the victims want, or conditions, whatever they are, that would be respected by whatever the conditions are. I know on the warrant, it said that there was a recommendation from law enforcement through to the court warrant that if he was to be back at his home across the street, that he had GPS, so he doesn't move to the house. That'd be one situation. If that's not sufficient with the victims, he could live at his parents' house, which is in a different location.
All right.
But I don't know exactly whatever the victims want.
Do you know how far away his house is from the neighbor's house?
It's several miles away, Judge,
So
in a different zip code. It's, I can have the address if you want.
the victim and the victim, the defendant are several miles away?
Oh, no, I'm sorry. I thought you meant the parents. No, they live right across the street from each other,
Do you know,
directly across the street.
do you know if it's in excess of 500 feet away?
No, it's directly, yes, it's inside 500 feet away. It's directly across the street.
Anything state wants to advise support?
State would request that the condition on the warrant that the defendant stay 500 feet away be honored by this court respectfully, and also respectfully ask that the court honor the warrant that requires GPS monitor, and that the accused be ordered to not come within 500 feet of the victim's home or school or other regular locations. Thank you.
I mean, it's problematic when they live across the street from each other. And I know in other cases, we have reduced the footage and said they can be in their own residence. And then we've given yardage that's less than 500 feet that he can be within. So I would be open to hearing what figure you all think that would be.
I don't think that's possible, Judge. In order to get into the driveway of one house, you'd have to pass by the victim's house.
Then the other option is for him to go and stay at that alternative residence that you spoke of, if I leave the 500.
Mother, I believe, is probably online, but it's bad and that's acceptable. And he both still homes are owned by the family, so he can live at the parents' home. We should be able to go back to his home to collect any things personal matters, et cetera, too.
The one-time return.
All
All right, so
Parents are already making arrangements that any weapons are in that home or in their home are going to be moved to other locations.
sir, in this case, I have reviewed the arrest warrant and the complaint affidavit. I do find probable cause for the charges. And I'm going to require pretrial release with GPS electronic monitoring and bail as conditions of pretrial release. You may not release until the GPS electronic monitor is affixed to your person. Once you are released, you need to report to pretrial release services office located at 1745 South Highway 17 in Bartow immediately upon your release. Thereafter, you need to report by phone 7 days a week, every day of every week. You're prohibited from having any contact with the victim and the victim's daughter in this case. You may not contact the victim or the victim's daughter in any either directly or indirectly. You may not contact the victim or the victim's daughter in any way, shape, or form. You must stay at least 500 feet away from the victim and the victim's daughter, their vehicles, residences, place of employment, and schools at all time. You also may not use, possess, or carry any firearms, guns, weapons, ammunition, or knives. Your bail is set at $1,000 on the M1 charge, and your bail is set at $20,000 on the F2 charge. Is there anything else on this case?
Not from the state.
Nothing from the defense, Your Honor. Thank you.
Great. Thank you, everybody. Oh, I'm sorry. And may return one time and one time only to your residence. But it has to be within 48 hours of your release from custody, and you must be accompanied by a law enforcement officer. The purpose of that one-time return is for you to retrieve essential items quickly, things such as medication, clothing, important paperwork, work tools, things of that nature. Thank you very much. Yes, sir.
Maybe I could request that be 72 hours. I say that because probably by the time we put the ankle monitor on, it'll be a Friday. And getting law enforcement to do it over the weekend is hard, so can make it 72 hours, so 48.
I will do 72 hours.
Thank you.
All right. Well, thank you very much. Any other private needs who are present today?
Yeah.
I'm not seeing any, so we're going to go right to South County Jail. All right. The first case is David Bellaflores. Mr. Flores, you're charged with violation of probation from case number 2026 MM 000858 out of Polk County. Would you like for me to appoint the public defender to represent you?
Yes, Your Honor.
Originally appoint the public defender to represent you in this case. I have reviewed the VOP arrest warrant and the VOP affidavit. I do find probable cause for the charge. Because it's an alleged violation of probation, your bond status is no bond at this time. So that's the situation, okay?
Yes, ma'am.
Sir. The next case is Timothy Bodison.
Step to the left.
Well, we have a couple of these on the docket today where it's the bring back date. Mr. Bodson already had first appearances on April 1st. There's a week to come get 7-day review hearing today. And the other county still hasn't come to get him. And I'm trying to find out what the other county's name is.
I had him on a VOP out of Polk County. Is that not correct?
For Timothy Bodson,
Mm-hmm.
it's Orange County. We're here for a unlawful carrying concealed weapon out of Orange County. It's got an OC number on it.
I thought I would. Okay. Well, the rest doesn't tell, but I thought on the Department of Corrections website that it had that it was Polk County for these charges now.
It's
Everyone agrees that the state and the feds agree that it's Orange.
It's orange on it. Only the Department of Corrections website showing he's supervised by Bartow on his probation, but the actual incident occurred in Orange County and he pled to it on December 3rd, 2025.
All right, and the state agrees, correct?
I have no information to the contrary, Judge. I pulled up CF 263153 and stack, and it did not return a case to Timothy Bodison.
Okay, so since this is an out-of-county charge, I cannot appoint Polk public defender to represent you. So I understand that you have been here a week and they still have not picked you up. So have we got any information about why they haven't picked them up or any information at all?
Not on our end.
Yeah, I inquire whether Orange County was notified. Are we able to? That doesn't go through our office, so I'm not able to directly.
Or me, so that's the.
It is a warrantless box, so I of course I always ask for ROR on these type of cases, but yeah, I don't know if those are contacted or not. They're supposed to be contacted.
Is there a way we can pass this case and find out? All right, we're gonna pass this case and call you back, sir, in a minute, okay? We'll see if we can get you some more information, okay?
Good, ma'am.
See where you are.
All
right. Christopher Brito Pardue.
He refused to attend, Judge. He's being combative.
All right, let's see if all the veteran can be brought back tomorrow. And I'm gonna ask everyone to hold it down because when other people are speaking, not our detention staff, but if we can keep the chatter down, it actually cuts my microphone.
Come on. Let's go. Let's go. Straight to
The
the back.
next case is Frank Caraballo. So you're charged in this case with cannabis, 20 grams. You also have a warrant out of Hillsborough County for petty theft. With possession of drug paraphernalia. That. Possession of a controlled substance without a.
Hey, get himself.
Counts on the warrant from Hillsborough County. All three of the ones from Hillsborough County are for violations of probation. I am going to have a question for for the state regarding the possession of controlled substance without prescription charge. Because I'm not seeing it. I'm seeing cocaine, but I'm not seeing a prescription drug. I see it on the front, the face sheet of the arrest report. I don't see any facts unless I'm missing that. But sir, would you like for me to appoint the public defender to represent you on the Polk County charges? It cannot appoint the Polk public defender to represent you on the Hillsborough County charges.
Is there any way you can run the charges like concurrent and transfer me to Hillsborough County?
No,
Oh yeah, I'll like a public defender.
all right. I provisionally appoint the public defender to represent you in this case. Let me pull up the arrest report. I have reviewed the arrest report, the arrest warrant. I have reviewed the warrant confirmation teletype. I have reviewed the arrest report. The arrest reports, I do find probable cause for all of the charges except for the drug possession, possession of a controlled substance without a prescription. What says the state about that charge?
Judge, that was I don't, first of all, I agree that what this court is not seeing, I also don't see. What I suspect happened was that the CFA intended to charge possession of cannabis resin. So that's what I suspect was intended. Let me see. It is not the only felony charge before the court for the accused. So that being the case, I would not request 24 hours to perfect.
I do not find probable cause for possession of a controlled substance without prescriptions, and you're to be released in your own recognizance, ROR, on that charge only. The state is not asking for 24 hours to be able to get more information to be able to see if they can demonstrate.
Listen to me, listen to me. I'm done, be quiet. You act like you're not going to do it.
We're gonna have to pause because when that's happening, nobody can hear me and it cuts out my microphone. All right, South County, thank you. I need y'all to hold it down so we can conduct court. Thank you so much. All right. As to the violation of probation charges from Hillsborough County, you're to be held no bond on these charges. Actually, I apologize. Hillsborough County said $500 on each count on them.
But it's okay.
I don't know. I'm sorry. I need South County to hold it down because you may think you're not talking loudly, but it projects and then it cuts out our.
Judge, we have an inmate that's acting out, so we're trying to get someone here to come and get him.
Then let's take a pause and jump to Central, okay? So we're gonna finish up this individual and then we're gonna take a pause because we can address that and handle that. We'll just skip to the next jail. All right, so sir, on the VOPs, Hillsborough set your bond at $500 on each count. As to the possession of drug paraphernalia, those two counts, and the possession of MDMA, ecstasy, I'm going to require a pretrial release with bail's condition of pretrial release. Your bail is set at $1,000 on the drug paraphernalia charges and $6,000 on the possession of MDMA, ecstasy. Once you're released, you need to report immediately to pretrial release services office in Bartow in person, and that is at 1745 South Highway 17. Thereafter, you need to report by phone every week, twice a week on Tuesdays and Thursdays. You also must submit to random urinalysis that you're required to pay for. Is there anything else we need to address?
Judge, on count one, the cannabis not more than, I believe it's 20 grams.
You know, I wrote right over that. Your bond on the possession of cannabis charge, possession of cannabis not more than 20 grams, your bond is $1,500 on that. And all the others, we have the ROR on the without prescription charge. All right, thank you, sir. We're gonna go ahead and jump over to Central real quick. And we'll
Thank you.
I'll take the females first, and then we'll jump back to South County when everything there is squared away. Yes. Yes.
Audison, the classification says that Orange County was notified. They did not respond, nor did they schedule a pickup for him.
All right, well, let's jump back to that when we get back to South County. Yes. All right, but if you'll just kind of remind me. All right, we're gonna jump over to the females. All right, the first one is Chelsea Albritton.
Yes, we heard on this one, Judge.
Okay, ma'am, you're charged with burglary with assault or battery. Would you like for me to appoint the public defender to represent you?
Yes, ma'am.
I provisionally appoint the public defender to represent you in this case. I have reviewed the warrant and the complaint affidavit, and I do find probable cause for the charge. Yes, sir.
Judge, this is charged as a first-degree felony punishable by life. The burglary is of a conveyance. So on the one hand, it does not qualify as an enumerated dangerous crime under 907-041. So the state will not be filing a motion for pretrial detention. That being said, on the other hand, it is a first-degree felony punishable by life. The accused is not entitled to a bond. In reading the facts of the case, it appears that the accused went into a vehicle, not only committed a battery, but also, I would argue, attempted to commit a robbery as well. That is not charged before the court, but the state is asking that the court hold the accused no bond until further proceedings. Thank you.
All right, and if I held her no bond, what would be the next step?
It would simply go to arraignment. If the defense were to file a bond motion or an Arthur motion, then it would go to an evidentiary hearing or a further hearing.
Is there anything that the defense would like to know?
Yes, Your Honor, my understanding is since it's a punishable by life felony, it's not a must file by the state, that it's discretionary. My understanding on this type of PBL, and it's not a life felony, that it's discretionary with the court whether they give a bond or not on this type of case, especially it's involving a vehicle, not a dwelling. So I would just ask that a bond be given and pretrial release conditions.
All right, ma'am. In this case, I am going to hold you no bond on this charge. And your next hearing date will be May the 12th at 8:30 a.m. Thank you, ma'am. The next case is Lutz Denise Cordero.
Sanderson Public Defender's Office. I'm not quite sure why we're exactly back on this. I thought we had resolved everything yesterday. Our office was appointed on this. I believe that I had agreed. Actually, the judge had a question about this being a felony as opposed to a misdemeanor. The date of the birth of the alleged victim was in the police report, so I didn't have a question on that. And she already got a bond of $5,000 in pretrial release conditions. I don't know that this was supposed to be reset, but so I wasn't expecting this on the docket today, but she already has a bond of $5,000, which would also be the same presumptive bond for an M1 DV battery as well.
So did the judge do pretrial release conditions and everything yesterday?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes.
So what is she here for?
I heard something about getting 24 hours to something about the birth date of the victim. It was only in the second page. It wasn't in the affidavit or something.
This was yesterday's order here. It says the state was given 24 hours to find additional information on PC.
That is written in error then, Judge, and with all due respect, both Ms. Smith and I were the attorneys in court, and it was Judge Stacy Kaler. She noted that the date of birth of the victim, if you do the math, made the victim over 65 years of age, but it was not explicitly stated in the narrative portion of the same affidavit, though it was on the same page. It was a single count, and so what I told the judge was that if the court was not inclined to find the age of the victim based on the date of birth given, that I would be requesting 24 hours to have the officer simply write it in the narrative. It was the only count holding the accused, and so I don't want to speak for the defense, but the defense basically stated to the court, they were not challenging that. The judge stated that normally she would want it in the narrative, but because the defense was not challenging it, and because it would serve to hold the accused till today, that she would find probable cause and set the bond with pretrial release conditions. I concur with what defense counsel presented. I was not expecting to see this case come back today. I did not request an amended affidavit because the judge did find probable cause. With all due respect, if the notes do not reflect that, there's just an error. There was discussion about that, but that was the ultimate outcome. I would have to refer to the court to the ECR beyond that.
Since the state and the defense agree that that is what occurred, and I did, when I was reviewing this case, I did not realize that that she'd been here yesterday, but I did see that date of birth as well. So it looks like everything has been addressed, and pretrial conditions and bail have been set already. So it looks this case has been fully addressed, and this was brought over in error. All right, thank you, ma'am. Sorry for the confusion. The next case is Michelle Cummings. Ma'am, you're charged with use or possession of drug paraphernalia and possession of cannabis resin. Would you like for me to appoint the public defender to represent you?
Yes, ma'am.
I provisionally appoint the public defender to represent you in this case. I have reviewed the arrest report. I do find probable cause for the charge. In this case, for the charges. In this case, I'm going to require pretrial release, bail's condition of pretrial release. Your bail is set at $5,000 on the cannabis resin charge and $1,000 on the paraphernalia charge. Once you are released, you need to report immediately to Pretrial Release Services office in person in Bartow, and that's at 1745 South Highway 17. Thereafter, you need to report by phone every week, twice a week on Tuesdays and Thursdays. You also must submit to random urinalysis that you're required to pay for. Thank you, ma'am. The next case is Sarah Dixon. Ms. Dixon, you're charged with possession of cannabis not more than 20 grams, use or possession of drug paraphernalia, and possession of methamphetamine. Would you like for me to appoint the public defender to represent you?
Yes, please.
I provisionally appoint the public defender to represent you in this case. I have reviewed the arrest report. I do find probable cause for all the charges. In this case, I'm going to require pretrial release with bail as a condition of pretrial release. Your bail is set at $5,000 on the methamphetamine charge and $1,000 on the paraphernalia charge and $1,000 on the cannabis charge. Once you are released, you need to report immediately to Pretrial Release Services office in Bartow at 1745 South Highway 17. And that has to be in person immediately upon your release. Thereafter, you need to report by phone twice a week, every week on Tuesdays and Thursdays. You also must submit to random urinalysis that you're required to pay for. Thank you, ma'am. Next case is, my understanding is that Amber Howard is a takeoff, Denary Jackson is takeoff, and she needs to be brought back tomorrow. Let's call it Cora Kehl, Keahl.
So, Your Honor, just to verify, Miss Jackson here is a takeoff?
That's what I was told. Is that not correct? I'm not sure who that was.
Jackson Cody is at the hospital, but there's a female Jackson that
I was told she was to come off, but I was told she was actually in the hospital. But if that was the wrong name given to all of us over here, then I'm glad that she is here and we can take care of her. All right, ma'am. Keep looking for us. You're charged with domestic violence, assault with a deadly weapon. Would you like for me to appoint the public defender to represent you?
Yes.
I provisionally appoint the public defender to represent you in this case. I have reviewed the arrest warrant, the arrest report. I do find probable cause for the charge. In this case, I'm going to require pretrial release with bail's condition of pretrial release. Your bail is set at $5,000. Once you're released, you need to report immediately to Pretrial Release Services office. Is it going to be in Bartow? All right, in Bartow at 1745 South Highway 17. You need to report to pretrial release services office in Bartow immediately in person upon your release. Thereafter, you need to report by phone 3 times a week on Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays. You may not use, possess, or carry any firearms, guns, weapons, ammunition, or knives. You are to have no contact with the victim. You have to stay at least 500 feet away from the victim's residence, vehicle, place of employment, and school at all times. You may not contact the victim directly or indirectly. You may not contact the victim in any way, shape, or form. Thank you, ma'am. The next case is the Mary Nichols.
Good afternoon, Your Honor. Linnell Dow on behalf of Ms. Nichols.
Peterson Secretary's Office, and I received a new affidavit. Are we doing Nichols now or the other one?
I had Nichols.
I had a Hale, JHL. On Miss Nichols'
I'm here
case,
to represent Ms. Nichols.
a new report from the state that changed the charges. Is that right, Mr. Matthews?
The charges should be, yes, ma'am. The charges should be 2 counts, 3rd-degree felony, battery on a protected class of person, not aggravated battery.
Yeah.
2 counts on protected class of person. So I did actually speak with the CFA directly. They sent a minute affidavit, and that should be in the court file, and I did copy defense counsel.
It's on there. Yeah.
And I would point out she is 18 years old. I would just ask the court to give a reasonable bond.
All right, ma'am, you're charged in this case 2 counts of
Excuse me, Your
battery.
Honor. Hello?
Yes.
Hello?
Yes.
Excuse me, Your Honor. I'm entering my appearance, Linnell Dow on behalf of Ms. Nichols. I'm not sure if the court heard me. I've been saying it a couple of times. Her family hired counsel.
I did not hear it. We couldn't hear you over here. So
Sorry, Your Honor.
please state your appearance.
Linnell Dow on behalf of Ms. Nichols.
All right, good afternoon. Ma'am, you're
Yes,
charged with 2 counts of battery on a protected class person to education employee, as well as disruption or interference with school administrative function. What would you like to tell me, Miss? Is it Miss Dow?
Yes, Your Honor. I heard what the state said. That was going to be my argument because I only have the first affidavit with ag battery. In addition, I was
Unfortunately,
let the court know she is a junior.
And just pause for a second. Unfortunately, our connection is not good. I don't know if we ever called. I can't. Yeah. Experience. So I mean, I'm gonna ask you to tell me again what you were trying to tell me. If I can't hear you, I'm gonna let you know. Okay, we're having a bad connection today.
Okay, will do, Your Honor. Are you able to hear me better? What I was saying is I've heard that the state filed an amendment that was going to be one of the things I was going to bring to Your Honor's attention. The second thing I wanted the court to know is she is a junior in high school. She is not employed. Any type of monetary bond would be paid by her parents. We're asking Your Honor to set a reasonable bond. We're asking for no pretrial release. Her family is in the process of enrolling her in another school, and just wearing an ankle monitor, we think would cause a disturbance and embarrassment for her to be going to school with that. She is not a flight risk at all, and they've retained private counsel.
All right. And I hadn't heard that anybody's asking for GPS. I mean, being on pretrial release doesn't mean you're going to have GPS necessarily. I hadn't heard anybody asking for GPS electronic monitoring. Is that the case? I'm asking the state.
We're just.
State is not seeking GPS. The state is seeking no contact with the victims or the school.
Yes, sir. All right. Well, I have reviewed the arrest report. I do find probable cause for all of the charges. And I did note that she is a high school student, but these are serious crimes. So I am going to require pretrial release with bail as condition of pretrial release, but I am absolutely taking into account her age and her economic situation because she is, although 18, she is in high school. So in this case, I'm going to set bond on the disruption or interference with the school administrative function at $250. And on each of the battery on a protected class education employee, I'm going to set the bond instead of the presumptive bond of $5,000. I'm going to set each of them at $2,000. Once she is released, she needs to report immediately to pretrial release services office at 200 Government Center Boulevard in Lake Alfred, immediately in person. Thereafter, she needs to report by phone 3 times a week on Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays. Ms. Nichols, you are prohibited from using, you may not use, possess, or carry any firearms, guns, weapons, ammunition, or knives. And you're prohibited from having any contact with the victims. You cannot contact the victims directly or indirectly. You cannot use social media. You cannot ask somebody else to contact them. You cannot contact the victims in any way, shape, or form. Additionally, you're to have no contact. What's the school name? With is it McLaughlin Academy? You are prohibited from having any contact with McLaughlin Academy, the school at issue. All right. Anything else we need to address?
Not from the state.
No, Your Honor. No, Your Honor.
Good luck to you, ma'am.
Judge, on those lessers about the aggravated.
They're both F3s.
Yeah.
No,
No, that's right. Thank you. All right, let's jump to the next case, and that is Lisa Michelle Risbon. Ms. Risbon, you're charged with violation of probation. My notes say that this is Polk County. If somebody has different information, if this is the law about BOP, you're also charged with use or possession of drug paraphernalia and possession of methamphetamine. Would you like for me to appoint the public defender to represent you?
Yes, ma'am.
Those on the public defender to represent you. I have reviewed the arrest reports. I do find probable cause for all of the charges. On the violation of probation, your bond status is no bond because it's an alleged BOP. But as to the possession of drug paraphernalia and possession of methamphetamine, I'm going to require pretrial release with sales condition of pretrial release. Your bail is set at $6,000 on the methamphetamine charge and $1,500 on the paraphernalia charge. Once you're released, you need to report immediately in person to the pretrial release services office at 1745 South Highway 17. Thereafter, you need to report by phone every week, twice a week on Tuesdays and Thursdays, and you must submit to random urinalysis that you're required to pay for. Thank you, Ms. Risbon.
Can I ask when my next court date is?
I don't have it, but you
Okay.
can certainly talk to your attorney about it.
Thank you.
Let's go back to Cora Kehl, Keahl. All right, ma'am, you're charged in this case with petty theft. Would you like for me to appoint the public defender to represent you?
Yes, please.
I'll provisionally appoint the public defender to represent you in this case. I have reviewed the arrest report. I do find probable cause for the charge. In this case, I'm going to require pretrial release with bail's condition of pretrial release. Your bail is set at $250. Once you're released, you need to report immediately to pretrial release services office in person at 200 Government Center Boulevard in Lake Alfred. Thereafter, you need to report by phone every week, twice a week on Tuesdays and Thursdays. You are prohibited from having any contact with Walmart stores, and you must stay at least 500 feet away from the event location. Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you.
The next case is Heather Seymour. And you're charged with driving while license suspended or revoked and violation of probation, 2 counts of violation of probation from case number 2019 CF 9240. My notes say that case is out of Polk County. Would you like for me to appoint the public defender to represent you in this case?
Yes, ma'am.
I provisionally appoint the public defender to represent you in these cases. I have reviewed the citations, the arrest reports, the violation of probation warrant, and the violation of probation affidavit. I do find probable cause for all of the charges. Your bond is no bond on the 2 counts of violation of probation. As to the driving while license suspended or revoked, I'm going to set your bond at $500 as straight bond. Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you. Have a seat now.
The next case is Mackenzie West. Ms. West, you're charged with 4 counts of violation of probation from your Polk County case of 2025 CF 8484. Would you like for me to appoint a public defender to represent you?
Yeah.
So, saying just that the public defenders are appointed.
He was appointed back in November. And, we resolved the case with probation. One moment.
Just to make sure, you want me just to appoint you? The PD's probably very, so it's clear. Very clear that the PD's appointed on these violation of probation case matters, okay? All right, I have reviewed the VOP for arrest warrant. Affidavit. I do find probable cause for all of the charges because they're alleged VOPs right now. Your bond status is no bond, so that's the situation, okay?
All right.
The next case is LaTanya Young.
Sandra Smith, Public Defender's Office. The alleged victim, according to the victim comment sheet, needs to have contact with her. No violent contact with the alleged victim, and also they have the same address.
I'm going to ask everyone to hold it down because we cannot hear. Thank you.
I mean, if they're allowed contact, then it doesn't matter, but if the court does not give them no violent contact, then I would ask for one time with law enforcement to get the stuff out of the house.
Ma'am, you're charged in this case with domestic violence, aggravated battery with a weapon. Would you like for me to appoint a public defender to represent you?
Yes.
Provisionally appoint the public defender to represent you in this case.
That's an aggravated assault, not battery.
I'm sorry, that is correct. Ms. Smith, thank you, Ms. Smith. Domestic violence, aggravated assault with a deadly weapon. And I did appoint a public defender. I have reviewed the arrest report. I do find probable cause for the charge. Is there anything the state wants to tell me about victim contact? Is a victim on the line? Is a victim appearing by teams? Nope, I'm not hearing it.
Judge, with all due respect to the victim's statement, considering the allegations, the state's position is a no contact order would be appropriate. No further proceeding.
In this case, I'm going to require pretrial release with bail as a condition of pretrial release. Your bail is set at $5,000. Once you're released, you need to report immediately to pretrial release services office in person in Lake Alfred at 200 Government Center Boulevard in Lake Alfred. Thereafter, you need to report by phone every week, 3 times a week. You need to report by phone 3 times a week, every week, on Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays. You may not use, possess, or carry any firearms, guns, weapons, ammunition, or knives, and you're prohibited from having any contact with the victim. You cannot contact the victim directly or indirectly. You cannot contact the victim in any way, shape, or form. You must stay at least 500 feet away from the victim's residence, vehicle, place of employment, and school at all times. I'm going to allow you the one-time return to the residence. However, it must be within 48 hours of your release from custody, and you must be accompanied by a law enforcement officer. The purpose of that one-time return is for you to quickly gather essential items, things such as clothing, medication, important paperwork, work tools, things of that nature. Thank you, ma'am. Is South ready for us to come back on, or do you want me to keep going with the minutes?
No, Your Honor, we're ready, ma'am. We're ready.
We'll switch back to South. All right, I'm going to recall Timothy Bodison.
Bodison, come on, Bodison. Carter, have a seat right here.
I've been told that Orange County was
They were
contacted, but they have not responded. So I'll hear from the state defense. It is a violation of probation.
I understand, Your Honor, but it is a warrantless bond. It's not a warrant that Orange County actually did on their own. And that may be the reason they're not coming to get him. I would ask for ROR.
State Attorney's Office in Polk County takes no position, Judge. I have no information to present.
All right, I'm gonna give them until Friday to get here. I'm going to ask that the sheriff's office I don't know how we get that word to the sheriff's office that they try again. Also, I know they go by teletype and all of that, but that they try again, let them know if we get to Friday. It's up to the judge who's going to be on the seat that day, but that we could very likely be released or allowed. All right, and the bailiff is saying they'll let the court know. All right, so let's bring it back Friday. We're going to bring you back Friday, sir, okay?
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you. Let's switch back to the next case is Justin Carter.
Sanderson, Public Defender's Office. My understanding is the alleged victim wants to have contact with him. If the court is not inclined to let them have no violent contact, then I would ask for one time with law enforcement to get the stuff out of the house within 48 hours.
Charged with domestic violence battery, would you like for me to appoint a public defender to represent you?
Say that again, Your Honor, please.
You're charged with domestic violence battery. Would you like for me
Okay.
to appoint the public defender to represent you?
Yes, ma'am.
I provisionally appoint the public defender to represent you in this case. I have reviewed the arrest report. I do find probable cause for the charge. In
Yes,
this
ma'am.
case, I'm going to require pretrial release with bail as a condition of pretrial release. Put the arrest report over. All right, your bail is set at $2,000. Once you are released, you need to report immediately to Pretrial Release Services Office in Lake Alfred in person at 200 Government Center Boulevard in Lake Alfred. Thereafter, you need to report by phone every week, 3 times a week on Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays. You may not use, possess, or carry any firearms, guns, weapons, ammunition, or knives. And you're prohibited from having any contact with the victim. You have to stay at least 500 feet away from the victim's residence, vehicle, place of employment, and school at all times. You may not contact the victim directly or indirectly. You cannot contact the victim in any way, shape, or form. I am going to allow you the one-time return to the residence, but that has to be within 48 hours of your release from custody. And you must be accompanied by a law enforcement officer. The purpose for that one-time return is for you to retrieve essential items quickly, things such as medication, clothing, important paperwork, work tools, things of that nature. Thank you, sir. All right,
Yes,
the
ma'am.
next case is Terrell Jano Dennison.
Sanderson, Public Defender's Office. He's charged with 2 third-degree felonies. I would ask to waive the reading of those 2 charges.
All right. All right, sir, are you aware of what you're charged with? Is
No, ma'am.
there a bailiff there who can show you the docket?
I seen it, but I seen it. I'll get it when I get in the dorm, ma'am. Your Majesty.
Okay. And I understand that there's an open case as well, and I could not read the case number. I saw 2026 and I saw 1452, but I didn't see if it's a CF or MM or what it is.
Yeah, he's already being held, I believe, no bond on the 2025-8574 pursuant to an order regarding pretrial release by Judge Williamson on February 25th of this year. And the other case, he was given bonds on March 4th, but I believe this incident predates the March 4th case for the 2026 CF 2181BA. So it's my position, he's already held no bond in one case and Parker doesn't apply to the other case.
Okay. All right, sir, I have reviewed,
Heard on February 23rd.
okay. Sir, in this case, I do provisionally appoint the public defender to represent you in this case. Is that what you'd like to do?
Yes, ma'am.
You provisionally appoint the public defender to represent you in this case. I have reviewed the arrest report. I do find probable cause for the charges. In this case, I'm going to require pretrial release with GPS and house arrest as conditions of pretrial release. Your bail is set at $10,000 on each count. Once you're released, you need to report immediately to pretrial release services office in Bartow in person at 1745 South Highway 17. Thereafter, you need to report by phone every day, 7 days a week, every week. With the house arrest, you may attend, of course, your court hearings, your attorney appointments, and any medical appointments. Thank you, sir.
Yes, ma'am.
Next case is Jarrett Anthony Garcia.
Yes, ma'am.
All right, so you're charged with introduction of contraband into a detention facility. Would you like for me to appoint the public defender to represent you?
Yes, ma'am.
I provisionally appoint the public defender to represent you. I have reviewed the arrest report. I do find probable cause for the charge. In this case, I'm requiring a pretrial release with bail as condition of pretrial release. Your bail is set at $1,000. Once you are released, you need to report to pretrial release services office in person immediately in Bartow at 1745 South Highway 17. Thereafter, you need to report every week, twice a week by phone on Tuesdays and Thursdays. Thank you, sir. Is Zachary fixed at South County or is he at Central?
We're currently getting him, Judge. We didn't realize that he was on here, so they're going to get him right now from SMED.
All right, let me note him as a recall real quick.
What was the name?
Zachary Fix. All right, the next case is Cody Jackson.
Cody Jackson, due to medical reasons, is not here, Judge.
All right, we'll see if he, let's bring him tomorrow if he's here tomorrow. Let's go to, is it Ella, is it Eloy Marquez?
Oh, I didn't see that.
Or no? I don't have a location, so I'm guessing.
Judge, he bonded out.
All right, I didn't get that information. All right, so is this William Massey in front of me?
Yes, ma'am.
All right.
Sanderson Public Defender's Office, another, like I said, we have several of these today. He had first appearances on April 1st, on just these two charges, and he's being brought back today to see if, Osceola County would come get him. Osceola County, of course, is not that far, but they have not come to get him in a week, so I'd ask for ROR.
Well, they are violations of probation.
And they're warrantless BOPs as well, because they don't have actual warrants.
All right, so are there any others like this on the docket? Because I'm gonna have the bailiff call
Yes,
one
there's-
time instead of, making multiple phone calls. I guess we have multiple ones.
We have this one, and then we have Devin Rivera.
Okay, so Massey, William.
And then Rivera's last name, first name Devin, D-E-Y-N, and that one's a Volusia County case.
Judge, just so you know, on Rivera, that is the one that we were having issues with, and they had to take him back
All right.
to
well,
his building.
Let's bring him back tomorrow then.
Is that, okay, for the Rivera, okay.
Yeah.
On Rivera, yes.
Is Massey the only other one with the warrant?
That I'm aware of,
situation?
yes.
All right. So, Mr. Massey, we're gonna call you back here in a little bit. We're gonna recall you, okay?
Yes, ma'am.
All right, let's go to Roy Miller. Mr. Miller, give me 1 second. Your paperwork wasn't in my file when I looked at it, but it's in there now, so hold on 1 second.
Yes, ma'am.
All right, so you're charged in this case with false owner information regarding pawned items, $300 or more, organized dealing in stolen property, grand theft of property valued at $5,000 but less than $10,000, petty theft, burglary of an unoccupied conveyance, false owner information regarding pawned items less than $300. Would you like for me to appoint a public defender to represent you?
Yes, ma'am.
provisionally appoint the public defender to represent you in this case. I have reviewed the arrest report. I do find probable cause for the charge. In this case, I'm going to require pretrial release with bail as a condition of pretrial release. I'm going to read off this real quick before I do the conditions. Your bail is set at $10,000 on the false owner information regarding pawned items $300 or more. Your bond is set at $10,000. On organized dealing in stolen property, your bond is set at $15,000. On grand theft of property valued $5,000 but less than $10,000, your bond is set at $5,000. On petty theft, your bond is set at $250. On the burglary of an unoccupied conveyance, your bond is set at $5,000. And on false information regarding pawned items less than $300, your bond is set at $5,000. Once you are released, you need to report immediately to Pretrial Release Services Office in person in Bartow. And that's at 1745 South Highway 17. Thereafter, you need to report by phone 3 times a week on Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays. You may not use, possess, or carry any firearms, guns, weapons, ammunition, or knives. And you're prohibited from having any contact with the victims. You cannot contact the victims directly or indirectly. You cannot contact the victims in any way, shape, or form. You have to stay at least 500 feet away from the victims' residences, vehicles, place of employment, and schools at all times. Thank you, Mr. Miller.
Is that 5,000 on both burglaries?
Hold on, let me go. Can you go back to we're jumping from page to page. The F2, it is $10,000, and on the F3, it is, and I'm looking at the arrest report, it is $5,000.
They were both
all right.
F3s, but so one of them is going to be, you said 10,000?
Well, when I'm looking at the arrest report, I have false information, pawned items $300 or more, and then I have false information, pawned items less than $300. And I have the first one as an F2 and the second one as an F3.
There are 2 counts of the F2, and there are also 2 counts of burglary of the conveyance.
Yeah, there are 2 counts of the burglary of the conveyance.
So those are the same, the bond that I said for those on each of the 2 counts.
That's right.
All right. Thank you, ma'am. Thank you, sir.
We reached out to Osceola, no response from them.
All right, we'll get back to that as soon as we wrap up this one. All right, thank you, sir. Let's jump back
Which one?
to William Massey. Mr. Massey, I guess we did reach out to Osceola County, and we've not heard a response back yet, but I'm going to give them till Friday. I'm going to do the same thing I did on the last one. I'm going to ask that the bailiff contact our sheriff's office, have them reach out to Osceola again and let them know that he's being brought back this Friday, and that if we don't hear from them, it's up to the judge who's going to be sitting in the chair on Friday. It's not me that day. But that it's very likely he could be released ROR'd on this the VOP charges. Okay. All right. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am.
All right, let's go to the next case. Cody Monroe, right? No. Yep. All right. All right. Cody Monroe.
Yeah. Our office already represents him on this case. This is a direct file by the state. They've added another ag assault, which I believe carries a $5,000 bond. And I would just ask for the same conditions that pre-trial release that Judge Stamey announced when he first came to first appearances. This is on March 31st. And I did make a copy of the pre-trial release conditions at the court so that they'll be consistent with what was already ordered.
I will get them as consistent as I can, but I've already seen them and I looked at them in the system.
Oh, you've already, okay.
Yes, ma'am. I'll get them as consistent as I can, although I'm sure I have at least one additional one.
Okay.
All right. All right, Mr. Monroe, this looks like this is an add-on charge for aggravated assault with a deadly weapon. And the state attorney's office, the public defender's office already represents you, and they will continue to represent you on this matter, okay?
Yep.
All right, I have reviewed the KPS, the state attorney's office information, and the arrest report. I have also looked at the pretrial conditions that Judge Stamey entered on this case. I do find probable cause. As to this charge, I'm going to require pretrial release with bail's condition of pretrial release. Your bail is set at $5,000. Once you're released, you need to report immediately to pretrial release services office, immediately in person in Bartow. That's at 1745 South Highway 17. Thereafter, you need to report every week, twice a week, on Tuesdays and Thursdays. You may not use, possess, or carry any firearms, guns, weapons, ammunition, or knives, and you're prohibited from having any contact with the victims. You have to stay at least 500 feet away from the victims' residences, vehicles, place of employment, and school at all times. You may not contact the victim directly or indirectly. You may not contact the victim in any way, shape, or form. You also must stay at least 500 feet away from the event location. All right, thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Next case is Jeremiah Plummer, or Plumer.
Yeah, no.
All right, sir, you're charged with kidnapping, domestic violence, battery, criminal mischief, with property damage, $200, but less than $1,000, grand theft of motor vehicle, and 2 counts of violation of probation from case number 2025 CF 9422. Would you like for me to appoint the public defender to represent you?
Yes, ma'am.
I provisionally appoint the public defender to represent you in this case. I have reviewed the arrest reports. I do find probable cause for all of the charges. The state said they had something to tell me.
Yes, Your Honor. With regard to the kidnapping charge, that is charged as a first-degree felony. Kidnapping is an enumerated dangerous offense under 907.041, 5A. I think it's the first one listed. So the state is filing a motion for pretrial detention on that count. I have a hard copy for appointed counsel. May I approach?
Yes.
Respectfully request the court review this motion, and if it is found facially sufficient, that the court hold the accused no bond on that count until a hearing on this motion, which should be set next Monday, April 13th at 1:00 p.m. on the A2 docket. Thank you.
All right, sir, the state is asking, they've handed me a motion for pretrial detention regarding the kidnapping charge, and they asked that on that charge that you be held no bond on that charge. I'm going to review their motion to see if it's legally sufficient. Is there anything that the defense wants to tell me about the state's motion for pretrial detention?
No.
All right, sir, as to all charges except the kidnapping charge, I'm going to require, actually, let me start with the VOPs. As to the violations of probation, because they're alleged VOPs, your bond status is no bond on those 2 counts. As to the remaining charges, with the exception of the kidnapping charge, I'm going to require a pretrial release with bail's condition of pretrial release. Your bail is set at $5,000 on the domestic violence battery charge. Your bail is set at $1,000 on the criminal mischief charge. Your bail is set at $5,000 on the grand theft charge. Once you are released, you need to report immediately to pretrial release services office in person in Lake Alfred at 200 Government Center Boulevard in Lake Alfred. Thereafter, you need to report by phone every week, 3 times a week, on Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays. You may not use, possess, or carry any firearms, guns, weapons, ammunition, or knives. And you are prohibited from having any contact with the victim in this case. You may not contact the victim directly or indirectly. You cannot contact the victim in any way, shape, or form. And if I didn't already say it, I did find probable cause for all counts. All right, and Mr. Plummer, you will be brought back over for a hearing. Right now, I'm going to hold you no bond on I have reviewed the state's motion for pretrial detention. I do find it legally sufficient, so you're to be held no bond at this time on the kidnapping charge. However, you'll be brought back before a judge on Monday, April the 13th at 1:00 p.m. in the A2 division for that judge to determine if you should still say no bond on that charge. So that's the situation, okay?
Can I ask you a question, please?
Your attorney's here. Yes, sir.
Is my VOPs getting ran concurrent with those new charges?
That's something you can talk to your attorney about, okay?
Yes, ma'am.
All right, thank you, sir. Good luck to you. Next case is Devin, is Devin Rivera here?
I think we're gonna reset that for tomorrow, is that?
He was the one who's disrupting.
Oh, that's right, that's right.
Reset
Okay,
tomorrow.
that's right. So we'll see if he's feeling better. We'll bring him back tomorrow. Next case is Chad Rosier. Sir, you're charged with violation of a condition of pretrial release for domestic violence. Would you like for me to appoint the public defender to represent you?
Yes.
And I understand that Mr. Rosier also has an open case with pretrial bond for 26 CF 170. But as to this new charge, I do appoint the public defender, I provisionally appoint the public defender to represent you on this new case. I have reviewed the arrest report. I do find probable cause for the charge. In this case, I'm going to require a pretrial release with bail as condition of pretrial release. Your bail is set at $5,000. Once you're released, you need to report immediately to Pretrial Release Services Office in Lake Alfred in person at 200 Government Center Boulevard in Lake Alfred. Thereafter, you need to report by phone 3 times a week, every week, on Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays. You may not contact the victim in any way. You're prohibited from having any contact with the victim. You may not contact the victim directly or indirectly. You cannot contact the victim in any way, shape, or form. You must stay at least 500 feet away from the victim's residence, vehicle, place of employment, and school at all times. You also may not use, possess, or carry any firearms, guns, weapons, ammunition, or knives. Is there anything else we need to address on this?
Yes, Your Honor. With regard to the immediate case, the state's going to ask that you revoke the bond in CF 26170. If the court is inclined to revoke that bond and hold the accused no bond in that case, then the no contact provision of that bond would presumably no longer be enforced. I would note that the charge before the court, the violation of pretrial release condition, does not necessarily name a victim, is not required to, and only that charge requires that the pretrial release condition be based on a domestic violence charge, but it doesn't necessarily have to be in contact with that victim. So because of that, I would respectfully ask that the no victim contact in the case for today include the named victim from CF 26170.
Do you have that name?
Yes, ma'am. It is Mavis Rozier, Rozier.
All right. In this new case, I'm also going to require that you have no contact with the victim from the case in 2026 CF 170, which is Mavis Rozier. You're prohibited from having any contact with Mavis Rozier. You must stay at least 500 feet away from Mavis Rozier's residence, vehicle, place of employment, and school at all times. You cannot contact her directly or indirectly. Cannot contact her in any way, shape, or form. As to case number 2026 CF 170, the state has asked that I revoke your bond and hold you no bond on that case, and that is what I'm going to do. So your bond is revoked in 2026 CF 170, and you're to be held no bond on that case. And you'll go before the assigned judge on that case. All right, good luck to you, sir.
Thank you.
Next case is Samuel Remy.
Sandra Smith, Flight Defender's Office. I just want to weigh the reading of his life felony charge in this case.
Yes, ma'am.
And I'll ask you as well.
All right.
Repeat again.
All right, the public defender waived the reading of your charge. Can Bill show him the docket? All right. You see the 2 charges you're charged with, sir?
Anthony. That's too bad. I can't see.
Okay, do you see what those 2 charges are, sir? Were you able to read those on the dockets and I saw the bailiff was talking to you. Did you see what those two charges are? Can
For
you
the
hear me?
charge,
I see it.
Okay, all right. Would you like for me to appoint the public defender to represent you?
Yes, ma'am.
I provisionally appoint the public defender to represent you in this case.
Yes, ma'am.
Is there anything the state or defense wants to tell me?
Yes, Your Honor, thank you. With regard to both counts and respecting the request from defense counsel, presuming a finding of probable cause, the state will request the accused be held no bond on both counts. The first count includes a dwelling as an element. That it qualifies it as an enumerated dangerous offense. And the second count is a life felony, so the accused is not entitled to a bond on either charge. Both charges are enumerated dangerous offenses under 907-041. If the court is not inclined to hold the accused no bond on both of the charges, then the state will request he be held 24 hours for the state to file a motion for pretrial detention. I won't go further in respect for the request of defense counsel.
All right, is there anything the defense would like to tell me?
No, Your Honor.
All right, Mr. Samuel, the state is asking that I hold you no bond on these charges today, and that is what I'm going to do. So as to both charges, you're to be held no bond, and this will be set for a hearing. Is that something that this?
No, ma'am. It would simply go to arraignment if the defense wishes to file a bond motion or an Arthur motion. That is what would trigger a hearing outside of the usual course of things.
All right, so your next court date, you'll go for an arraignment on May the 12th at 8:15 a.m. And I did appoint the public defender's office so that they can represent you on this case, okay?
Yes.
All right, thank you, sir. Good luck. The next case is Paul Sinclair.
I'll ask to be heard on this one, Judge.
All right, Mr. Sinclair, you're charged with, let's see, you're charged with first degree. I had a question on this one. I see the docket says first degree arson, and I see second degree arson, 2 counts, but when I looked at the affidavit, has the first one already been dealt with, the first degree, and this is an add-on to the direct file regarding second degree arson?
Correct.
Yes.
Okay, so the first degree has already been dealt with.
Correct.
All right. All right, so, sir, it looks like it's just an add-on charge for the second degree arson of a structure or dwelling. Would you like, is the public defender? All right, so the public defender has already been appointed, and then my only other note from pre-trial is that the defendant is on VFOSC probation until April 27th.
That's in Pinellas and Hillsborough County.
Okay. All right, is there anything anybody wants to tell me on this case?
I just wanted to clarify, we've already covered some of it. On the first count, the arson in the first degree, I filed a motion for pretrial detention for that count. It went to a hearing. The judge hearing that motion granted the state's motion for pretrial detention. So he has already held no bond on that count after a hearing on a motion. This is coming through first appearance. Technically, under the statute, it's a must file at first appearance. I will not be filing one because it would seem to be a pointless motion, as the court has already granted the state's request to hold him no bond on that count. Because of that, the add-on charge of arson in the second degree, I will not be filing a motion for pretrial detention. That would be a permissive filing because arson is an enumerated dangerous offense, but if it's lower than F1, then it's permissive for the state to file on a dangerous offense. But again, because he has already held no bond, will not be filing a motion on that. If at some point in the future there is a subsequent motion and bond hearing or Arthur hearing, typically the state will then file the mandatory motions for pretrial detention so they can all be heard at once. So I just wanted to kind of lay that out for today's hearing and why I'm not filing one on a mandatory filing. Thank you.
All right, and I still haven't heard what you're requesting the court to do.
On the first count, on the docket list I have is showing as an add-on. I believe it is not an add-on. So I'm asking the court to honor the previous, well, the circuit court's ruling that he be held no bond on that count of arson.
I guess let me stop you there. Do we all agree that he should only be here on the arson of structure or dwelling, the second degree arson charge?
Well, because an information was filed, I see why it came to first appearance, but the state's position is he's already held on that count.
All right. All right.
With regard to count 2, Judge, I would ask for an order of no contact with the victim or the location as either a condition of a bond or a condition of pretrial release. In this case, the allegations, just very briefly, were that the accused attempted to set a group home on fire on 4 different locations inside the residence, including 2 inside the victim's private room, as well as an outbuilding that was close to the residence. I believe that's where the count 2 comes from. So I would ask no contact with that location and no contact with the named victim, which is shared with count 1.
All right. In this case, I have reviewed the arrest report. I do find probable cause for all the charges, although I think count 1 has already been dealt with. But just so there's no confusion, I do find probable cause on both charges. I understand that the court has already determined that he's to be held no bond on the first degree arson charge. As to the second degree arson charge, I'm going to require pretrial release with GPS electronic monitoring and house arrest and bail as conditions of pretrial release. Sir, you may not be released until the GPS electronic monitor has been affixed to your person. Once you're released, you need to report immediately to Pretrial Release Services Office in Bartow in person at 1745 South Highway 17. Thereafter, you need to report by phone every day of every week, 7 days a week, and you're on house arrest. However, you may attend your own court hearings and your own attorney appointments and medical appointments for yourself. You're prohibited from having any contact with the victim. You have to stay at least 500 feet away from that location. Additionally, the use or possession of an accelerant is prohibited. An accelerant is a fuel or oxidizing agent such as an ignitable liquid used to initiate a fire or increase the spread or growth of fire. Your bond is set on that second degree arson case at $15,000. And you may not use, possess, or carry any firearms, guns, weapons, ammunition, or knives. Thank you, sir. All right, next case is Leonardo Sequendo. All right, sir, you're charged in this case with resisting or obstructing an officer without violence. Would you like for me to appoint a public defender to represent you?
Yes, ma'am.
Originally appoint a public defender to represent you. I have reviewed the arrest report. I do find probable cause for the charge. In this case, I'm going to require a straight bond in the amount of $1,000. Thank you, sir.
Do I have a court date on that, ma'am?
I don't know what it is. You can certainly talk to your attorney about it, okay?
All right, thank you.
Thank you. Next case is Javarzi Smith.
Yes, ma'am, divorce.
Javarzi, sir, you are charged in this case with assault on a law enforcement officer and resisting or obstructing an officer without violence. Would you like for me to appoint the public defender to represent you?
Public defender, a lawyer.
The public defender?
No, ma'am, a lawyer.
The public defender is a lawyer. So would you like for me to appoint the public defender to represent you in this case?
No, ma'am.
All right, you're going to represent yourself or you're going to hire your own attorney?
Yes, ma'am.
Which one?
That's it.
So which one? Are you going to hire your own attorney or are you going to?
Yes, ma'am. Represent myself.
Okay. Do you have any legal training?
Yes, ma'am. I went to college.
Okay, and do you have any specialized training in the law?
No, ma'am. Yes,
You do?
yes.
Okay, you went to law school or paralegal school or,
I went to 3 different colleges, Polk State, Bethune, and FAMU.
okay, and did you take any legal classes in the law?
Yes,
Okay. You understand the state is represented by an attorney and they understand all of the criminal rules of procedure. They understand how to get evidence introduced. They understand all the case law regarding these criminal matters. Whereas you're a layperson, so you don't. You understand that you would be at a disadvantage since the state is represented by an attorney. Do you understand that?
yes, ma'am.
You still want to represent yourself instead of having me appoint the public defender to represent you?
Lawyer. Oh yeah, and I got to speak on you about something. I never hit a law enforcement.
I don't,
He
okay.
chucked me up, and then they tried to boom me. They couldn't get me down.
Sir, stop. We're not talking
That's all
about
I'm
any
saying.
of that.
That's all I'm
I'm
saying.
trying
Man.
to okay, stop talking. I'm trying to get through to see. You told me first that you don't want me to appoint the public defender. You keep going, appoint a lawyer. That's the public defender.
A public defender will get me in more trouble with the situation that I didn't do. I said I'll hire a lawyer, man.
Right, then you may hire an attorney, and I was finishing the colloquy to go through if I can determine if you are knowingly waiving your right to an attorney. So that's what we're doing, and that's why I'm asking you these questions, okay? Because I'm required to. So we'll get through this process. All right, so you didn't answer my final question, which was, do you understand? I explained the whole part about the states represented by an attorney and that they're going to have an advantage over you. Do you understand that?
Yes, ma'am.
All right. So you will hire your own attorney is what I'm hearing you, and you knowingly understand the pitfalls with representing yourself. All right.
Yes,
So
ma'am.
I have reviewed the arrest report in this case. I do find probable cause for the charges. In this case, I'm going to require pretrial release with bail as a condition of pretrial release. Your bail is set at $1,000 on each count. Once you're released, you need to report immediately to Pretrial Release Services Office in person in Lake Alfred at 200 Government Center Boulevard in Lake Alfred. Thereafter, you need to report by phone every week, twice a week on Tuesdays and Thursdays. You're prohibited from having any intentional contact with the law enforcement officer victims. You may not use, possess, or carry any firearms, guns, weapons, ammunition, or knives. Thank you. Good luck to you.
All right, thank you.
Is that it for South? And if we also have, I'm going to spell the first name. It's Khoeun.
Yes, ma'am. It's Kuhn's son, ma'am.
Son, S-O-N. All right.
Yes, ma'am.
He's an add-on. Let me just look at your file real quick. You're an add-on.
Add-on.
All right, so you're charged with violation of probation from Polk County in case number 2025 MM 3963. Would you like for me to appoint the public defender to represent you?
Yes, please.
I provisionally appoint the public defender to represent you in this case. I have reviewed the arrest warrant for the violation of probation, and I have reviewed the affidavit of violation of, hold on a second. Let's see this warrant.
VOP.
Also the arrest warrant.
No, they had no more bonds for me.
1 second. I don't see the affidavit here. But that looks like a duplicate of the same page.
And you're Sanderson Flood Defender's Office. My understanding, he should be here for the 2 VOPs. I don't want to have to come back again tomorrow for the second one. But he's here also for the 2025 MM 4928NE, which is also listed on the affidavit for the violation of probation.
Okay, so, well, I don't have the paperwork yet, so, but thank you for letting me know about that second one. So he's here on 2025 4928 and 2025 MM 3963. And
yes.
They're trying to get me a copy of the affidavit of violation of probation, and I'm trying to look them up too to see who can get there first. Any appointed public.
And he is already booked in on both of those.
Yes. Thank you. Sorry, sir, sometimes it's hard to get the paperwork when it's a quick add-on. So bear with us.
It's okay.
Unless someone has a copy they want me to look at. Handy.
I'm checking that just because it was an add-on. I only have the warrant in my usual paperwork.
I usually don't get involved in this, but yes, I do have the affidavit. He's already booked in on it. He's already held no bond. I don't want him to have to come back again tomorrow for this.
Thank you, ma'am. And I've got one coming up right too, and now one of them popped
No
up.
bonds. I had a bond.
First transfer.
He's already done all the other
TV
stuff.
vet and all that?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
He's only here for the box.
All right, I'm looking at the affidavit of violation of probation that covers both cases. And I did see the arrest warrants. I do find probable cause for, thank you. I do find probable cause for the charges in this case, sir. I did appoint the public defender's office to represent you. So you're going to be held no bond on all of the VOP counts, okay? That's the situation. And your
What
attorney.
else? What are the VOPs?
What are the VOPs? They're the ones
Yes.
we're talking about. And your attorney can go over the affidavit with you of the violation of probation, okay?
Mostly,
Okay.
Your Honor, the VOPs are based on his new charges that he picked up.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
Thank you,
Could
sir.
Your Honor, could I get my lawyer's number?
I don't know who your attorney's going to be. I just represent you today at first appearances. You'll be
Thank you,
assigned a
ma'am.
public defender tomorrow, and I don't know which one that'll be.
Okay. Am
And
I
we
coming
don't
back
take-
tomorrow?
We don't take calls from the jail anyway.
Okay. Are we coming back tomorrow?
No, sir. You're going to be set for another hearing. Do we have the, is this
Okay. When is my hearing?
Hold on a second. Hold on, the clerk's office is trying to sort it out. That's a weird time. All right, you're going to be set for a hearing for April the 13th at 12:45 p.m. Thank you, sir.
Okay. Oh, what's it?
Oh, you got Fix here, Judge, last name Fix.
What else do you have?
Fix, F-I-X, the one from earlier
Okay, great.
is the last name.
All right. For-
Zachary's the first name.
All right, Zachary Fix, sir, you're charged with disorderly conduct. Would you like for me to appoint a public defender to represent you?
I mean, you can. I don't know what I was disorderly about. It was real strange arrest, man. I don't know what I did.
I'm not trying to get into all that. I'm just trying to
I
figure out
know.
if you want me to appoint the public defender to represent you.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, I provisionally appoint the public defender to represent you, Mr. Fix. I have reviewed the arrest report. I do find probable cause for the charge. In this case, I'm going to require a pretrial release with bail as a condition of pretrial release. Your bail
All
is
right, cool.
$250. Once you're released, you need to report immediately to pretrial release services office in person in Bartow at 1745 South Highway 17.
All right.
Thereafter, you need to report by phone every week, twice a week on Tuesdays and Thursdays. And you must stay at least 500 feet away from the event location. Thank you, Mr. Fix.
All right, cool. Thank you.
All right. Yes, let's go to Central County Jail, to the males. The first case is Fiery Adams.
Sandra Smith, Public Defender's Office. I would point out they have the same address. I didn't see any prior record for him in Florida. The alleged victim wants to have contact with him and for him to come home. So I would ask for reasonable bonds with him be able to have contact with the victim. The court is not going to allow contact with the victim. Then I would ask one time with law enforcement to get his stuff out within 48 hours of his release.
All right, so you're charged in this case with domestic violence battery and domestic violence false imprisonment. Would you like for me to appoint a public defender to represent you?
Yes.
Provisionally appoint the public defender's office to represent you in this case. I have reviewed the arrest report. I do find probable cause for the charges. In this case, I'm going to require pretrial release with bail as condition of pretrial release. Your bail is set at $5,000 on the false imprisonment charge and $3,000 on the domestic violence battery charge. Once you are released, you need to report immediately to pretrial release services office in person in Lake Alfred at 200 Government Center Boulevard in Lake Alfred. Thereafter, you need to report by phone every week, 3 times a week on Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays. You may not use, possess, or carry any firearms, guns, weapons, ammunition, or knives. All right, in this case, since the victim has said that they want to have contact with you, I am going to allow nonviolent contact. You're allowed to have contact with the victim, but you are prohibited from being physically or verbally threatening, violent, or abusive in any manner whatsoever. Do you understand?
Yes. All right, that's everything we need to address. Thank you, sir.
Let me see it in a second, so.
All right, going on to Jonathan Baker. Mr. Baker, you are charged with violation of probation and 2 counts from Polk County case 2024 CF 1842. Would you like for me to appoint the public defender to represent you?
Yes, ma'am.
Provisionally appoint the public defender to represent you in this case. I have reviewed the violation of probation arrest warrant and the violation of probation affidavit. I do find probable cause for the charge. Because they're alleged VOPs, your bond status is no bond, so that's the situation, okay?
You said 2 VOPs?
It's 1 case, 2 charges.
Okay.
All right, thank you.
I've seen that, so.
How you doing, Your Honor? Good afternoon.
Good afternoon, Christian. It's Bowie, B-O-U-I-E.
Yes, ma'am.
You have a KPS
Okay.
from two cases. Case
I'll tell
number
you the one that's
2026
in one county, New Mexico, but they're not going to extradite you
and 2026
on this,
CT
okay? But anyway, you're here on 3 matters. 2 of them are probation violations, one's a new matter. But still,
Is the public defender already appointed on these cases?
Yes, Your Honor.
All right, so the public defender has already been appointed to these cases and they will continue to represent you. The KPSs are for no bond. I have reviewed them. I do find probable cause. So your bond status is no bond at this time on both of these cases. You'll have a 5-day hearing. Is this the right day? Yes. On April the 10th at 8:30 a.m., okay? Thank you, sir.
Your Honor, speak. You come back on 10.
I'm seeing that, so.
Thank you. Can you sign it? Yes, I can. All right, the next case is William Comfort. All right, Mr. Comfort, you're charged with use or possession of drug paraphernalia and possession of methamphetamine. Would you like for me to appoint the public defender to represent you?
Yes.
I provisionally appoint the public defender to represent you in this case. I have reviewed the arrest report. I do find probable cause for the charges. In this case, I'm going to require pretrial release with bail as condition of pretrial release. Your bail is set at $5,000 on the methamphetamine charge and $1,000 on the paraphernalia charge. Once you're released, you need to report immediately in person to the pretrial release services office in Bartow at 1745 South Highway 17. Thereafter, you need to report by phone twice a week, every week on Tuesdays and Thursdays. You also must submit to random urinalysis that you're required to pay for. Thank you, Mr. Comfort.
I've seen this, so.
The next case is Donald Ray Gatlin.
Did you want to do our add-on Edwards, or do you want to wait till last for him?
I'm going to do him last because I'm going to have to look at the whole file and all of
Yes.
that.
Yes, ma'am. I've seen.
All right, Mr. Gatlin. You're charged with violation of probation in two cases, 2025 MM 4225 and 2025 CT 4019 out of Polk County. Would you like for me to appoint the public defender to represent you?
Yes.
I provisionally appoint the public defender to represent you. I have reviewed the VOP arrest warrants and the violation of probation affidavits. I do find probable cause for the charges. Because they're alleged VOPs, your bond status is no bond, so that's the situation. Thank you, sir.
Have a seat in a second, so.
Next case is Jordan Taylor Hemes Walsh.
Yes, Your Honor.
All right, sir, you're charged with violation of probation from case number 2026 CT 1192. Would you like for me to appoint the public defender to represent you?
Yes, Your Honor, but I have retained private representation. She's just not here today, but for my VOP appearance, she will be.
All right, so you do not want me to appoint the public defender to represent you, is that correct?
Can I say yes for the moment? I have the transferred over.
Well, if she's already, I'm, so.
She wasn't able to appear today in person.
Okay, hold on, let me see if we have a notice of appearance. For your violation of probation. But
I don't see a notice.
All right, we don't see a notice of appearance, but if you have retained an attorney, if you want to be brought back tomorrow so that you can contact your attorney and have them appear tomorrow, you certainly can. How do you want to proceed?
I'll do no representation for the moment.
All right. You're charged with violation of probation. I have reviewed the VOP arrest warrant and affidavit. I do find probable cause for this charge. Right now, you're going to be held no bond, and this will be set for a hearing May the 4th at 12:45 p.m., okay?
Okay.
Make sure you reach out to your attorney.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you. Next case is Carl Bryant Lee. All right, so you're charged with tampering in a second-degree felony proceeding, aggravated assault with a deadly weapon, two counts of that, tampering with physical evidence, grand theft of a firearm, criminal mischief $1,000 or more. And I have a question for the state and the defense. It's not on my docket, but when I look at the arrest warrant, I also see the possession of firearm by a convicted felon.
Yes, ma'am. The state's position is that F2 should be on the docket list.
Yes, he's been booked in on that. I don't know why it wasn't on the docket.
All right, so it should also be a possession. This is Carl Lee.
Okay.
So there should be the additional charge of possession of firearm by a convicted felon. That's a number 7. All right. The clerk's office is adding that right now. Sir, would you like for me to appoint the public defender to represent you in this case?
Yes, ma'am.
Originally appointed the public defender to represent you in this case. I have reviewed the arrest warrant and the complaint affidavit. I do find probable cause for all of the charges. In this case, I'm going to require pretrial release with bail as a condition of pretrial release. Your bail is set at $20,000 on the tampering in a second-degree felony proceeding charge, $10,000 on each of the aggravated assault with deadly weapons charges, $10,000 on the tampering with physical evidence charge, $5,000 on the grand theft of a firearm charge, $5,000 on the criminal mischief $1,000 or more charge, and $15,000 on the possession of firearm by a convicted felon. Once you are released, you need to report immediately to Pretrial Release Services Office in person in Bartow at 1745 South Highway 17 in Bartow, Florida. Thereafter, you need to report by phone every week, 3 times a week on Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays. You may not use, possess, or carry any firearms, guns, weapons, ammunition, or knives. And you're prohibited from having any contact with the victims in this case. You may not contact the victims directly or indirectly. You may not contact the victims in any way, shape, or form. You must stay at least 500 feet away from the victims' residences, vehicles, place of employment, and schools at all time. Thank you, sir.
And Judge, on that count 7 for the possession of a convicted felon, how much was the bond?
It was 15.
Okay.
All right. Thank you very much, sir. Next case is Daniel Liner.
Okay, Kern, have a seat up here.
Yes, ma'am.
All right, sir, you're charged in this case with cannabis possession not more than 20 grams, possession of drug paraphernalia. Would you like for me to appoint the public defender to represent you?
Yes, ma'am.
I provisionally appoint the public defender to represent you. All right, and the only thing that that is noted by pretrial services that he's on active DOC probation.
Yeah, he's not on probation. He's on conditional release supervision. If we're talking about the 2022 562 case, he resolved that on December 11th, 2024 for 3 years of prison. And the Department of Corrections website shows his scheduled termination date for the conditional release is April 13th, 2026.
All right, unless anybody has any other information, I have the barest of information regarding that.
I have no further information, Judge. I would only note that if it's conditional release, even if he posts a bond, they may hold him until DOC comes and gets him. But I don't have insight into that as state attorney.
As to the new charges, sir, I have provisionally appointed the public defender to represent you. I have reviewed the arrest report. I do find probable cause for those charges. In this case, I'm going to require pretrial release with bail as a condition of pretrial release. Your bail is set at $1,500 on each charge. Once you're released, you need to report immediately to Pretrial Release Services Office in person in Bartow at 1745 South Highway 17. Thereafter, you need to report every week by phone, twice a week on Tuesdays and Thursdays. You also must submit the random urinalysis that you're required to pay for. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Next is Joseph Meade. All right, Mr. Meade, it looks like you have a capias in this case for failure to appear on a case at arraignment on a camping on a public property violation of Lakeland City Ordinance case. That's section 70-5 of the Lakeland City Code. I see that you're not represented by counsel. Would you like for me to appoint an attorney to represent you?
Yeah.
I appoint Gail Cheatwood to represent you in this case, okay?
Oh, I'm supposed to be in jail just for a trespassing charge.
Well, you're here, and I've appointed Gail Cheatwood to represent you as an attorney, and you can certainly talk to her about that. But another judge issued a capias in this case after you didn't appear, and they set your bond at $250. So that's the situation, okay? But Ms. Judge is going to represent you. Thank you, sir.
Sure.
This case is Darren Muldrow, Muldrow.
Mohika, have a seat over here.
I'll jump back to him, that's all right. Mr. Muldrow?
How you doing,
Office. He and the alleged victim have the same address, so I would ask for one time with law enforcement for him to get his stuff out of the house within 48 hours of his release.
Yes, ma'am. All right. So you're charged with resisting or obstructing an officer without violence and domestic violence battery with a prior conviction. Would you like for me to appoint the public defender to represent you?
I'll take my own private counsel later.
All right, you're going to hire your own attorney, is that correct?
Yes, ma'am.
All right. I have reviewed the arrest report. I do find probable cause for the charges. In this case, I'm going to require pretrial release with bail as a condition of pretrial release. Your bail is set at $6,000 on the domestic violence battery with prior conviction and $1,000 on the resisting or obstructing an officer without violence. Once you are released, you need to report immediately to Pretrial Release Services Office in person in Lake Alfred at 200 Government Center Boulevard in Lake Alfred. Thereafter, you need to report by phone every week, 3 times a week, on Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays. You may not use, possess, or carry any firearms, guns, weapons, ammunition, or knives. You're also prohibited from having any contact with the victim. You may not contact the victim directly or indirectly. You may not contact the victim in any way, shape, or form. You must stay at least 500 feet away from the victim's residence, vehicle, place of employment, and school at all times. I'm going to allow you the one-time return to the residence, but it has to be within 48 hours of release from custody, and you must be accompanied by a law enforcement officer. The purpose for that one-time return is for you to quickly gather essential items, things such as medication, clothing, work tools, important paperwork, things of that nature. Thank you, sir. Take care. Next case is Oswaldo Mojica. All right. So you're charged in this case with domestic violence battery. Would you like for me to appoint a public defender to represent you?
No, ma'am.
All right. You're gonna hire your own attorney or represent yourself?
Yes, ma'am. I'm my own attorney.
All right. I have reviewed the arrest report. I do find probable cause for the charge. In this case, I'm going to require a pretrial release with bail as a condition of pretrial release. Your bail is set at $2,000. Once you're released, you need to report immediately to Pretrial Release Services Office in Bartow in person at 1745 South Highway 17. Thereafter, you need to report every week by phone 3 times a week. On Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays. You may not use, possess, or carry any firearms, guns, weapons, ammunition, or knives, and you're prohibited from having any contact with the victim. You cannot contact the victim directly or indirectly. You cannot contact the victim in any way, shape, or form. You have to stay at least 500 feet away from the victim's residence, vehicle, place of employment, and school at all times. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Next case is Christopher Nunez Malave, M-A-L-A-V-E.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon. Do you want me to say that last one?
Sorry, Judge, I'm looking for it.
Okay. All right. So you're charged with possession of cannabis not more than 20 grams and possession of drug paraphernalia. Would you like for me to appoint a public defender to represent you?
Yes, ma'am.
I provisionally appoint the public defender to represent you. I have reviewed the arrest report. I do find probable cause for the charges. In this case, I'm going to require a pretrial release with bail as a condition of pretrial release. Your bail is set at $1,000 on each count. Once you're released, you need to report immediately upon your release in person to Pretrial Services Office in Lake Alfred at 200 Government Center Boulevard in Lake Alfred. Thereafter, you need to report by phone every week, 2 times a week on Tuesdays and Thursdays. You also must submit to random urinalysis that you're required to pay for. Thank you,
I got a
sir.
question, ma'am.
Yes, sir.
Is the pre-trial optional or?
Sure
Okay.
isn't. I just announced it. Thank you.
Let's see,
Next
Nicole.
case is Jason Peralta.
Yes, ma'am.
Mr. Peralta, you're charged with 10 counts of violation of probation from case number 19 CF 4489 in Polk County. Would you like for me to appoint a public defender to represent you?
Oh, ma'am, I already got mine. He just couldn't come today.
All right, and you're wanting to proceed today? Is it a private attorney?
Yeah, yes, ma'am.
Okay, and you want to go forward today?
Yes, ma'am.
All right, I have reviewed the arrest report. I do find probable cause for all of the charges. Because there are alleged violations of probation, your bond status is no bond, so that's the situation, okay?
Yes, ma'am.
All right, thank you, sir. Next case is Donovan, I'm gonna spell the last name, Phabsompphou.
Good afternoon, Your Honor.
Good afternoon. All right, so you're charged, it looks like you have a capias for failure to appear at arraignment in case number 2025 CT 009173. Would you like for me to appoint a public defender to represent you?
Yes.
I provisionally appoint a public defender to represent you. I have reviewed the capias. It is a no bond capias, so your bond status right now is no bond. I do find probable cause for the charge. We're going to go ahead and set a 5-day hearing for April the 10th at 8:30 a.m. Thank you, sir.
Was he also?
Who sent us this capias? Or who put this capias? And what judge?
Your attorney can go through that with you. All right.
I got an email about another case. I
Hold
didn't
on,
know.
sir. We're not done.
I didn't know if we were also addressing 2020.
I'm sorry.
2025 CT 9169. I got an email on that.
Okay, I didn't get that information, so other people get it, but let me take a peek. Did in pretrial services didn't get that information apparently? Did you get that? Did you hear about that?
No, Your Honor, could I hear the case number one more time, please?
Okay, it's one I thought that Judge Kaler handled yesterday, but it's a 2025 CT 009169. It's the one that had the $1,000 bond on it. So I guess I thought it was addressed yesterday, but then I got an email saying they're adding that one as well today, so I don't.
So it was or was not addressed yesterday?
I heard Judge Kaler mentioning it, but I don't know, somebody wanted to reset.
Excuse me? I got that bond yesterday. When I came in yesterday, they granted me a bond on every charge, all my FTAs, and they told me I had to come back for the 10th to go in front of another judge to get the other FTA. So they're going in front of, I forgot, is it Judge Staney? I can't remember. That's why I asked.
All right, let's bring it back in. All right, so I was not here yesterday, and so it's 2025 CT 9173.
9173.
That's the one we have.
So I guess I would ask the clerk, what information do you have? Was it not here yesterday, that one?
That's the one with your.
Yes. So, okay, but was it here yesterday?
This was yesterday's file.
Okay, so apparently this was in yesterday's file is what pretrial is telling me.
Okay, so it was addressed yesterday?
Let me hear from the clerk's office. Although when I look at that one, that says no bond.
Yeah.
All right, let's just address them both because.
So the first one was registered on not $1,000 one. That's 9169.
Yes, that was the one I was addressing, whether or not it was really handled yesterday or not.
Okay, well then I'm sorry.
That has a $1,000 bond on it.
Let's go one by one, and so we don't get a lot of crosstalk. Let's go with what the clerk has first, the FTA arraignment DWLSR 2025 CT 9169. That's $1,000 KPS. I do find probable cause for that if it was not addressed, and the KPS sets it at $1,000. So just in case we don't know, because I still haven't heard if we did address it, so that was $1,000. I do find probable cause for it. If it was not already addressed, then somebody can tell me yet if it has been addressed or it hasn't been addressed. But it's clear on its face, it's $1,000, so that's set at $1,000. As to the FTA, as to the second KPS for 2025 CT 9173 for failure to appear at arraignment, that one is the no bond KPS. I do find probable cause for that. And it is no bond. So we need a 5-day hearing for that one. So that will be set for April the 10th at 8:30 a.m. All right,
And
thank you.
before we close, Judge, and I apologize, I'm trying to do two things at once. I'm showing the accused has 4 open cases. Do we address all 4 TT cases or CT cases?
Yesterday, we addressed the other 2 FTA CT cases with the no bond with the hearing on April 10th. The only 2 we didn't address are on the docket today.
Okay.
All right.
All right. I'm sorry. Well, I mean, I don't know on this one.
All right, moving on.
Yes, I appreciate you.
All right, thank you, sir. Moving on to Tyrell Ralston.
Good morning.
You ready?
May I approach the bench just to pre-trial, please?
Are we ready to do Tyrell Ralston?
No, if I may have just a moment. I don't know if you'd be able to. No. I'll find out if you'll have anything on this case number.
All right, Mr. Ralston, you're charged in this case with false ID given to a law enforcement officer. Would you like for me to appoint the public defender to represent you?
Oh, yes, ma'am.
I provisionally appoint the public defender to represent you in this case. I have reviewed the arrest report. I do find probable cause for the charge. And pretrial services states that he's also on probation for 2026 MM 000609. But as to this new charge, Sir, I'm going to require pretrial release with bail's condition of pretrial release. Your bail is set at $1,500. Once you're released, you need to report immediately to pretrial release services office in Bartow in person at 1745 South Highway 17. Thereafter, you need to report
Put your leg down.
once a week, every week, on Tuesdays and Thursdays. Is there anything anyone wants to tell me about the probation case?
So what was the number of the probation case?
2026 MM 0000609.
I'm not. I thought he also had a failure to sentence consumes for a weekend work release, so I don't know if that's on that case or not. I need to double check it.
He's on probation judge with finding probable cause the state would request an stanchion warrant.
It was 609.
2026 MM 0000609.
Okay, I finally found it. Just one moment. Okay, so he was placed on probation on that on March 11th.
All right, in this case, the state has requested that I issue an instanter warrant on the previous case, 2026 MM 0000609, that he be held no bond, and that is what I'm going to do on that case. So,
And I would ask for us to be pointed to the no bond BOP case and that violation probation case be set at the same time as arraignment on the new charge.
all right, I provisionally appoint the public defender's office to represent him on that probation case, which is 2026 MM 0000609. Can they be put together?
Oh, come on, say that blue too.
Yes, ma'am. All right, thank you. Moving on to, I understand William Reed or Red, R-E-D-D is a takeoff, is that correct?
That's correct, he bonded.
All right, then we have Robert Rivera. Mr.
Yes, ma'am.
Rivera, you're charged with use or possession of drug paraphernalia and possession of cocaine. Would you like for me to appoint the public defender to represent you?
Yes, ma'am.
I originally appoint the public defender to represent you in this case. I have reviewed the arrest report. I do find probable cause for the charges. In this case, I'm going to require a pretrial release with bail's condition of pretrial release. Your bail is set at $5,000 on the cocaine charge and $1,000 on the paraphernalia charge. Once you are released, you need to report immediately to pretrial release services office in person in Bartow at 1745 South Highway 17 in Bartow. Thereafter, you need to report by phone every week, twice a week, on Tuesdays and Thursdays. You also must submit to random urinalysis that you're required to pay for. Thank you, sir. The next case is Don Stevens. Can I get someone real quick? Who are you, sir? Who's the gentleman?
Stevens bonded, I'm sorry, Your Honor.
Let's get the Rivers.
Rivers. Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't have a location on him. Yes, ma'am.
He never made it from booking. Rivers, Darius, I can't, Fabian.
All right, let's bring him back tomorrow since he's not there.
Yes, ma'am.
So, going to Don Cornelius Stevens. Sorry.
He bonded.
Okay, great. Next case is Joseph Striplett.
Hello, Your Honor.
Good afternoon, sir. You're charged in this case with violation of probation from case number 2024 MM 2271. Would you like for me to appoint the public defender to represent you?
Yes, ma'am.
I provisionally appoint the public defender to represent you in this case. I have reviewed the violation of probation arrest warrant and affidavit. I do find probable cause for the charge. Because it is an alleged VOP, your bond status is no bond, so that's the situation, okay?
Thank you so much, ma'am.
Thank you, take care. Next case is Dylan Thomas.
Thomas?
All right, Mr. Thomas, you are charged with grand theft, $20,000, but less than $100,000. Would you like for me to appoint the public defender to represent you?
I guess.
All right, I provisionally appoint the public defender to represent you in this case. I have reviewed the arrest report. I do find probable cause for the charge. In this case, I'm going to require a pretrial release with bail as a condition of pretrial release. Your bail is set at $10,000. Once you are released, you need to report immediately to Pretrial Release Services Office, immediately in person in Bartow at 1745 South Highway 17. Thereafter, you need to report by phone every week, twice a week on Tuesdays and Thursdays. You are prohibited from having any contact with the victim. You may not contact the victim directly or indirectly. You may not contact the victim in any way, shape, or form. You have to stay at least 500 feet away from the victim, the victim's residence, vehicle, place of employment, and school at all times. Thank you, Mr. Thomas. The next case is Joseph Trowell, Trowell.
Yes, ma'am.
All right, sir, you're charged in this case. Is there anything the defense wants to say?
I'm sorry, so what was the name of the person again?
Trowell.
Oh, this is a career offender charge.
All right, sir, you're charged with failing to register as a career offender. Would you like for me to appoint the public defender to represent you?
Yes, ma'am.
I provisionally appoint the public defender to represent you in this case. I have reviewed the warrant and the complaint affidavit. I do find probable cause for the charge. In this case, I'm going to require GPS electronic monitoring, house arrest, and bail as conditions of pretrial release. Once you are released, you need to report immediately in person to Pretrial Release Services Office in Bartow at 1745 South Highway 17 in Bartow. You may not be released until the GPS electronic monitor is affixed to your person. After you do that initial in-person report immediately upon release, thereafter, you must report by phone every week, 7 days a week. You're also going to be on house arrest, but you may attend your own court hearings, your own attorney appointments, and your own medical appointments.
Yes, ma'am.
All right, thank you, sir. Good luck to you.
Sir, what was the bond?
What does that mean?
It's $10,000.
Thank you.
Yep. The next case is Joseph Ware. All right, Mr. Ware, you're charged. It looks like there's a capias regarding an order for pretrial and an affidavit of violation of electronic monitoring GPS. Would you like for me to, and this is for case number 2025 CF 6123 and the 3 counts associated with that case. Would you like for me to appoint the public defender to represent you? I couldn't hear you.
I thought I had Linnell Dow as private.
I had down Linnell down. Now I thought she was actually here for this case today, but
Who is it?
the attorney that was here earlier, Linnell Dow.
Oh.
Yeah, that's
You what? So are y'all showing that she's representing him? This is pretty accurate, so I assume that that's correct. Yes, ma'am. All right. Sir, do you want to have this set for tomorrow so that you can call your attorney and see if she can appear? Or do you want to proceed today?
we just proceed, get it over with.
Okay. All right. So that capias was issued. It is a no bond capias. I have reviewed the capias and that affidavit of violation of electronic monitoring GPS. I do find probable cause for the charge. And that capias is set at no bond. That's the situation, okay? You'll be set for a 5-day hearing for in front of the assigned judge for April the 13th at 9 a.m., okay? All right. Thank you. Next case is Aquarius Williamson. All right, so you're charged in this case with resisting or obstructing an officer without violence and petty theft. And pretrial services says you have an open bond case in 2026 MM 2243. But as to these new charges, would you like for me to appoint the public defender to represent you?
Sorry, you said, go ahead again. I had muted it.
Yes.
Don't just leave it unmuted, please. So you would like for me, did I hear you say yes, you want me to appoint the public defender to represent you?
Yes.
All right. I provisionally appoint the public defender to represent you on these charges. Um, I have reviewed the arrest report. I do find probable cause for both charges. In this case, I'm going to require a pretrial release with bail as a condition of pretrial release. Your bail is set at $1,500 on the resisting or obstructing an officer without violence charge and $500 on the petty theft charge. Once you are released, you must report immediately to the pretrial release services office in person in Lake Alfred at 200 Government Center Boulevard in Lake Alfred. Thereafter, you must report by phone every week, twice a week on Tuesdays and Thursdays. You are prohibited from having any contact with Target stores, and you must stay at least 500 feet away from the event location from this case. Is there anything anyone wants to tell me about 2026 MM2243?
Court having found probable cause in this new offense, the state requests the bond in the earlier case to be revoked and to be held no bond for Parker.
All right. Is there anything this defense wants to tell me?
I defer to the court.
All right, so the state is asking, because you have a previous case, 2026 MM2243, they're asking that I revoke your bond in that case and that I hold you no bond pursuant to Parker v. State, and that is what I'm going to do. So your bond is revoked in case number 2026 MM2243. You're to be held no bond on that case pursuant to Parker v. State. And when will he be released for hearing on that case? You'll go for, looks like an arraignment on April the 24th at 8:30 a.m. Thank you, sir. All right, I have, I see two people there, but I have an add-on for Frankie Edwards. Do you all have someone else besides Frankie Edwards?
Yes, last name Kern.
What's the last name?
K-E-R-N.
Kern Tristan.
Okay.
Kern.
Let me call the skip first. Kern, let me get there. Tristan Kern. Sir, you're
Yes, Your Honor.
charged with 3 counts of violation of probation from Hillsborough County. Would you like for me to appoint the public defender to represent you?
Yeah, it's Hillsborough County. I just asked for a status hearing on April 15th.
I read Hillsborough County. What did I say?
You said that's right.
Oh, okay, thank
But
you.
I thought you said, did you want to public defender?
And I'm sorry, ma'am.
All right, let me start over. Hold on, Mr. Kern. You're charged with 3 counts of violation of probation from Hillsborough County. All right.
3 counts?
Yes, sir.
I thought I just failed a drug test.
Well, don't talk about the case, okay? All right, but it is, but right now it's showing 3 counts of violation of probation. Because this is a Hillsborough County case, I cannot appoint a public defender to represent you, but when you get over to Hillsborough County, you can certainly ask the judge there to consider appointing them if that's what you want to do, okay? If you're still in our custody and Hillsborough hasn't come to get you and you're still in our custody on April 15th, then we'll bring you back to first appearance here in Polk County, okay?
Okay.
Right. Thank you, sir. And right now, your bond status is no bond. All right, let's jump back to our add-on, which is Mr. Frankie Edwards. Here, I'll sign this one. All right. So you're charged with possession of cannabis not more than 20 grams, use or possession of drug paraphernalia, resisting an officer without violence, 2 counts of that, battery on a law enforcement officer, carrying a concealed firearm, possession of firearm by a convicted felon, and driving while license suspended or revoked 3rd or subsequent offense. Would you like for me to appoint the public defender to represent you?
Yeah.
I provisionally appoint the public defender to represent you in this case. Just give me one moment, please. I have reviewed the arrest report. I do find probable cause for all of the charges. In this case, I'm going to require pretrial release with bail as condition of pretrial release. I'm going to require bail in the amount of $1,000 on the possession of cannabis charge, $1,000 on the drug paraphernalia charge, $1,000 on the resisting an officer without violence, on each of the resisting an officer without violence charges, $5,000 on the battery on a law enforcement officer charge, $5,000 on the carrying a concealed firearm charge, $10,000 on the possession of firearm by a convicted felon charge, $5,000 on the DWLSR third or subsequent offense charge. Once you're released, you need to report immediately to pretrial release services office in Bartow. I'm sorry, pretrial release services office in, hang on 1 second. In Bartow. So once you're released, you need to report immediately to pretrial release services office in person in Bartow at 1745 South Highway 17. Thereafter, you need to report by phone every week, 3 times a week on Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays. You may not use, possess, or carry any firearms, guns, weapons, ammunition, or knives. You also must submit to random urinalysis that you're required to pay for.
Your Honor, there was another affidavit with a resisting without violence by itself. Did the court handle that one also? Because should be a total of 2 resistings without and 1 with resisting with. I didn't want him to have to come back tomorrow for 1 resisting without charge.
No bond was set for the resisting with at this point.
Hang on 1 second. So I'm looking, yep, hold on, let me see. Resisting without violence, 1 count. Resisting with violence, 1 count. Look at this real quick. Hang on 1 second. I'm sorry, when it's add-ons, it's.
There's another affidavit that has a single resisting without violence charge.
Let me get through this one first, and then we'll jump on this. Look, this one I'm looking at, possession of cannabis not more than 20 grams, use of possession of drug paraphernalia, resisting officer without violence, count. And resisting an officer with violence. So I thought it was 2 counts of resisting without, but it's resisting, 1 count without, 1 count with violence.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so the second one of this, so there's only 1 count on the misdemeanor, and the felony one will be $5,000.
And there's a, like I said, a different affidavit that has a single resisting without violence charge on it. I would just ask for $1,000 bond on the other affidavit.
We don't have that one, so let's pause for a minute and we'll get there in 1 second.
And he has been booked in on both resisting without and the resisting with, so I just didn't want him to have to, come back tomorrow for 1 charge.
They're looking for it. All right, let me finish this one though. I already said he may not use, possess, or carry any firearms, guns, weapons, ammunition, or knife. You're also prohibited from having any contact with the law enforcement. You're prohibited from having any intentional contact with the law enforcement officer victims in this case. You have to stay at least 500 feet away from them. From their residences, vehicle, places of employment, and school at all times. Well, not places of employment. All right, did you find the other affidavit?
When they arrested me?
And I do have a copy of the affidavit.
All right, they're pulling it up for me
Oh,
right now.
yes, ma'am.
So apparently there's another one, there's something else coming up there. Okay, so there's a arrest affidavit for the single count that Ms. Smith referenced of resisting an officer without violence, first degree misdemeanor. And you all have that as well on there?
Could I speak, Your Honor?
Well, you're represented by counsel.
Don't talk about the facts of the case. I just didn't want you to have to come back tomorrow on 1 single count of resisting without violence.
Your attorney is suggesting that you not talk. She said she's just trying to have me address this second case so you don't have to come back again. All right. And you all have that other one as well? Just like knowingly driving, battery, possession of firearm, carrying concealed firearm. with possession of cannabis, possession of liquor, resisting without, and 9 resisting without. So it looks like you have them to me. All right, so as to this second resisting without violence, it'll be $1,000 in all the same terms. Yeah. So it'll be $1,000 bond on that one, all the same pretrial conditions. So both cases have been addressed. Anything else we need to address while we're here on this case?
Not from the state, thank you, Judge.
All right, thank you, Mr. Edwards. That's all I have unless you all have something else.
No, Your Honor, that's all we have.
Any further from the state?
How about from the clerk?
Nothing.
Anything else?
For those ISOL, we did